stand to sing O Canada? We'll start with the roll call. Vicky, please.
Mayor Sue Patterson,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Warren Dicker,
Present.
Councillor Harold Fleet,
Present.
Councillor Dave Hockey,
Present.
Councillor Carol Hudson,
Present.
Councillor Susan Sackle,
Present.
and Councillor Brandon Cable is absent.
Thank you, Vicky. All council members are in attendance with the exception of Councillor Cable, who has sent his regrets. We'll begin with the land acknowledgement. As we work toward reconciliation with Indigenous people, we begin our meeting today by respectfully acknowledging that we are situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, and further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. So welcome to our regular council meeting for Monday, July the 17th, 2023. Good afternoon, council, staff, guests, and the viewing public, and of course our media. Council, does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest or a conflict of interest? Seeing none, if one should arise during the meeting, you may declare it then. Item 5 on our agenda is additions or deletions. And I would like to add an item to 17.2, which is the date and time of our August meeting, requesting council to consider changing the start time of that meeting to 3 p.m. rather than 4 p.m. And I would also like to remove item 14.4, which is the Municipal Law Enforcement Quarterly Report. Staff want to verify some numbers, and that report will be presented in August. Item 6 on the agenda is the health and safety message, and it is brought to us by our Deputy Mayor, Deputy Mayor Dicker. Please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our topic today is bicycle safety. People of all ages can ride a bicycle. Biking is a fun activity that is good for the body and for the planet. Following bicycle safety rules will help keep you safe when enjoying this outdoor activity. Always wear a properly fitting helmet. If the foam in your helmet is cracked, replace the helmet. Ride a bike that fits. You should be able to touch the ground when seated and straddle the bike when standing. Check your bike before you go to make sure it's in safe riding condition. Make sure there are no loose parts and that the brakes and chain are working properly. Learn and obey the rules of the road. Under Ontario's Highway Traffic Act, a bicycle is considered a vehicle, just like a car or truck. As a cyclist, you must obey all traffic laws. Equipment required by law is a bell or horn, lights and reflectors, a white light on the front and a red light or reflector on the rear, and reflective tape. White on the front forks and red on the rear forks. Wear bright clothing or a safety vest so drivers can see you better. Enjoy your ride, but do it safely.
Thank you. I don't have a bell or a horn on my bike. Now that I see that, I went, oh dear. So, okay, item 7 is delegations. We have 2 delegations this afternoon, and the first one is we have Barry Heaney and Kevin Tremble from BDO Canada LLP. They are going to highlight the financial statements for the year ending December 31st, 2022. Welcome, Barry. And again, I'll ask if you just with your microphone there.
Yep. Okay. Happy to be here to present the financial statements, the consolidated financial statements for the town of Hanover. I'm Barry Heaney with the BDO office here in Hanover. And we completed the audit this year. And this is a very high level review. We went over it with council earlier. Page 3 of the financial statements is the management's report to the statements that they sign. Pages 4 to 6 is what I was going to go over more. It's the audit report. So this is BDO's audit report that gets attached to the town's financial statements. There's different sections to it. The first section states that we are auditing the consolidated financial statements and contains an unqualified or clean audit opinion. Section 2 states that the basis of opinion and outlines that the audit is performed in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and that BDO is independent of the town. Section 3 outlines management's responsibility for the consolidated financial statements. Management is responsible for preparing the financial statements. And the 4th section reviews the auditor's responsibilities, and we are responsible to express an opinion on that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the municipality, which we have. So that's all part of that report. If we could skip briefly to page 11, it is a summary of significant accounting policies. And it's important to point out all the entities that are consolidated into the town's financial statements so you understand what's included in these numbers. The base of accounting states that we are reporting in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards, which is common for municipalities. And the next section is the basis of consolidation. So it lists all the entities included. 100% of the following boards: police services, cemetery, public library, downtown improvement area, the launch pad, and the radio station. Plus, there is some proportionately consolidated entities, being SMART and the landfill and the municipal airport. So page 7 will summarize the statement of financial position. So it basically concludes on the financial assets less the liabilities and the non-financial assets that come to your accumulated surplus. So the total financial assets of the town are 21.5 million, and it lists all the different types of financial assets, so cash and investments and receivables. And it's up about 895,000 from 2021. Liabilities, including accounts payable and deferred revenues, retirement obligations, they total $6.1 million, which is up about 250,000 from 2021. So when you net the two, financial assets minus liabilities, we have $15.4 million of net financial assets, up about 645,000 from last year. Non-financial assets make up $89.9 million of the town's accumulated surplus. That's the investment the town has on infrastructure, land, buildings, equipment, vehicles. That is up $2.9 million from prior year. So when we add the non-financial assets with the net financial assets, we get an accumulated surplus of $105.3 million, which is up $3.6 million from last year. That represents the total investment the town has, mostly in infrastructure. Page 8 is the consolidated statement of operations. Revenue is for the year was 23.3 million. It is down 10 million from last year, but is up 2.8 million from budget. And there was a one-time pickup of some capital assets that were assumed by the town, some subdivisions, and that accounted for about $12 million of last year's revenue. So when you take that out, the one-time funding increase there, it's more in line with previous years. The increase from budget mostly is 1.4 million of the difference to budget is the government transfers. We're much higher this year than budgeted, and part of that's coming out of COVID with some increase in the OLG funding. Expenses were $19.7 million in the year versus $18.8 million last year. So it's up $939,000 from last year and 1.9 over budget. Part of the increase is due to those assets assumed are being depreciated now. So there's extra depreciation expense included, increased fuel costs. And there was also, excuse me, a downtown fire that added some extra costs that obviously were not budgeted for. And also extra rec costs with COVID kind of coming, coming out of COVID, there was a lot of extra services and whatnot provided in the year that had some costs to them. When we net the the expenses from the revenues, there's an annual surplus of $3.6 million. And it's about $983,000 of surplus above budget, most of which was invested back in tangible capital assets, as you can see from the other page. So in total, that we started off with 101, almost 102 million of accumulated surplus, and the annual surplus gets added to that for a total accumulated surplus of $105 million. We'll skip to page 10 as a statement of cash flows. So there's cash generated from operations, starts with surplus and non-cash items. There's 5.6 million in generated. 4.8 million of that was spent on capital activity in the year. So that most of your cash flow went to capital and reinvestment. And then there was an investment. Some money was put into investments in the year. And there was some financing activities, repayment of debt. So overall, the cash is sitting on $11 million year over year at the end of the year. So I'm just gonna jump to note 11, which breaks out the accumulated surplus. So there's a accumulated surplus is made up of a general surplus of $47,000 deficit, $18.2 million worth of reserves and reserve funds, $2.5 million of amounts to be recovered, liabilities, almost $2 million of amounts invested in land for resale, and $87.6 million of assets invested in tangible capital assets. And note 24 shows the reserve and reserve funds, and it shows a further breakdown. In total, there's $18.2 million invested, which is up $556,000 of amounts invested in reserve and reserve funds. The rest of the notes provide a little more backup and information for some of the numbers in the financial statements. But in closing, the town's surplus and reserves have increased in the year. The town has net financial assets of 15.4 million, reserve and reserve funds of 18.2 million, an annual surplus of 3.6 million, and accumulated surplus of $105 million at December 31st, 2022, which includes $89.9 million invested in equipment, vehicles, land, and infrastructure. So we would like to thank Sherry, Chris, and Jen, and the whole town staff. They've been for their hard work in helping us pull this audit together, and the cooperation they provided in helping us complete the audit. So thank you.
Thanks, Barry. Are there any questions for Barry or? No? Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate the good overview of the statements. Okay, our second delegation is, we have Sean Kelly and Stasia Stemsky from Plural, and they are going to speak to us about the Splash Pad and Center of Excellence Park, the feasibility study. So welcome, Sean.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. I'm going to share my screen so I can get a report up to you.
Right. We need
Oh. Sean, excuse me 1 minute. I'm trying to rush the meeting this afternoon.
Okay.
We don't need one. We're not making a motion.
I thought we needed a motion to accept the,
Join.
yes,
Oh, okay.
so,
Sorry.
um,
You want it?
I have it.
Okay.
So I need a mover and seconder that the council of the town of Hanover approves the corporation of the town of Hanover financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2022 as audited and presented by the municipal auditors for BDO Canada LLP Chartered Accountants, licensed public accountants. And I see Councillor Hawking and Councillor Fleet. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Now we're good to go.
Sorry, I was thinking it was for the next one.
All right, so Sean,
Yes,
you're back on.
I'm back on. I know you're not rushing the meeting and you told me I have 10 minutes, so I will rush because we got lots to say for you folks this afternoon. Everyone can see the screen and hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so as the first slide suggests, Hanover Community Splash Pad and Center of Excellence, or the COE as we're calling it, park feasibility study is what we've been addressed to do, and we've taken on a few things. It's a feasibility study. I'll make that clear from the get-go. It's a relatively high level, but it's certainly practical and pragmatic, and that's the way we deal with it. And I think in the end, we provide decent detail to reach informed decision-making for the town. I would really like to thank the Hanover community and the Splash Pad Advisory Committee who put loads of time into this, and especially Laura Kristen, who certainly has been not necessarily hand-holding, but aiding us as we need to go along, getting the right information. And then I have my team, who you can see up on the screen right now. Just quickly about us, we're about an hour south of you folks. We're down Center Wellington area, and we've been doing consulting to smaller rural communities all over the province, and we certainly deal with recreation facilities amongst other things. But Hanover, we know well, we've been here before, and we've certainly worked on plenty of splash pads and park sites. So just as a bit of a background to the study, prior to us being retained in 2021, there was recommendations to improve and enhance Hanover's community placemaking opportunities, which was approved by council. And then in 2022, last June, a year ago, a motion to pursue a joint feasibility study for the Splash Pad and Center of Excellence. That was approved by council. And that's where we were hired last fall, starting in November, to conduct both feasibility studies. And that's what I'll be presenting to you this afternoon. So there's two parts, and they took different processes to get to the same place ultimately. Part A dealt with the splash pad, part B dealt with the Center of Excellence. So in the splash pad, you will see under the part A, you'll see Heritage Square, Hanover Park, and Heritage, sorry, that should be Hanover Park Kinsman Park right there. We were asked to assess all three of those through a community online survey, do inventories and analysis. We did a pre-consult with the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, and certainly reviews with project manager and advisory committee. And in each of these park locations under Part A, what we want to do was look at a review of potential sites that could possibly house or accept a splash pad. We looked at opportunities and constraints for each. There was preliminary budget estimates developed for each, and we did some site comparisons. I'll get into a little more detail in a second. We reviewed that with the project manager, who then took it and we did a quick presentation to the advisory committee as well. There was a park selection made, and then we pushed a little more, taking it from feasibility to kind of feasibility to looking at concept development and subsequent budget estimate to do that. At the same time, Part B, the Hanover Center of Excellence feasibility was struck, did pretty much the same process. It fed into the online survey. We certainly looked at the park inventory and we analyzed that. We had a pre-consult with the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority as well, and certainly reviews with the project manager and advisory committee. And you can see where that slides down and meets the piece with the splash pad under program development below. And then we created some concepts for that, 2 of them, and then we had a final budget estimate and phasing plan for that. So that's what you're going to pretty much see this afternoon. So let's start with Part A, the splash pad feasibility. So we were provided 3 sites: Hanover Heritage Square, Hanover Park, or Heritage Park, sorry, downtown, and Kinsman Ballpark. And you can see the difference in sizes, you know, Heritage Square, 1.54 acres, and then the Hanover Park is the largest of the 3 sites at 13, over 13 acres, and then the Kinsman Ballpark at 9, almost 10 acres. Each one of these sites are shown on this quick map, identified through numbers 1, 2, and 3. We put a 450-meter walking radius from those locations to get the idea of catchment opportunities for certainly pedestrians and cyclists. 450 seems to be the maximum folks want to walk these days. Most of us want to park as close as we can to the store, but they say 450 works, and that's a comfortable distance. What you also see on this map is actually the approximate regulated floodplain area for the Saugeen Valley, which really impacts Site 2, and it's with it. And if you know your town, you certainly understand this quite well. We also listened, put a survey out, heard a lot of things, almost 760 respondents online, and you could see the breakdown of the respondents, or the 759 individuals. We had permanent residents, we had residents actually outside of Hanover, which was a sizable number, and then the business owners themselves. And we always expect business owners to be a lot less in these types, and many business owners are also permanent residents. So I think we've had a decent take on the survey. And the question here was not where the splash pad should be, but where would they use a splash pad if it were located at each of the 3 sites. So you can see Hanover Park, 93% of the respondents said they would certainly go to Hanover Park if there's a splash pad there. 83% said they would go to the Kinsman Ballpark if it was there, and we have 50% that said if the splash pad was in Heritage Square, we'd make the trek to that. We also queried a few other things about what folks really felt they liked about splash pads, as well as things they had issues with. Let's go over the 5 aspects of other splash pads that respondents liked. 72% were saying washrooms on site or proximity to the splash pad was a good thing. They liked that. Being able to view and have seating at the splash pad and associated areas. Other recommended or other recreation amenities certainly bundled in with the splash pad made sense. A variety of water features, and these are kind of the features that are within the splash pads themselves. And something that's a little more inclusive in a different age groups. 68% told us that's something they really liked about it. However, we also, queried, like I said, issues they had saw at other splash pads. Top one being here, no shade, not having any protection from the sun. Areas that didn't have seating was a challenge. 36% said they didn't like the fact there was no washrooms. Others had said limiting operating hours or opening hours, and 24% said things that were not inclusive. And when you get in parks and recreation and parks design specifically with playgrounds and splash pads and skate parks even, you'll understand that a lot of them are really designed towards a specific age group. And that's where you get the inclusivity question all the time. How many folks can use this and enjoy it? So as I said, we went to all 3 sites, and this is really just a capture of some of the things we saw. I don't really need to speak to all of them, but all 3 sites were drawn up, planned. We understood circulation behavior, how things were used, some of the features that were at the site, and we put that all together. So we inventoried that, and then we'd go through an assessment. So we analyzed it. And even though you're not seeing the other 2 sites here, well, you can see where Heritage Square is certainly, and the Kinsman Ball Diamond, in addition to the Hanover Park. We create these cut sheets that have a lot of detail in them, and they talk about the pros, the cons, the types of things we offer, and really important to understand what opportunities and what challenges we may have at each site. There's 8 things we typically consider when we do this type of work. Obviously, proximity to parking, circulation, existing utilities. Are there any washrooms? Overall accessibility and safety is paramount. We look at that, how folks use the site. Are there any points of conflict or things that may be challenging to everyone and anyone? Water management options is always a big part, especially when you're talking about features of water in a municipality or a town. Available space versus anticipated use, right sizing, and how large should the facility be? What can it accommodate or what it cannot? Regulatory requirements. In many areas we work, obviously there's a conservation authority involved. So in this case, Saugeen Valley was the agency we were dealing with. Site suitability regarding current programming. We could have a capability of a site, but is it suitable is what we want to know as well with some of the current programming. And are we creating points of conflict or challenge, or does it really seem to have a nice fit? Community support. It's whether the community really are championing where splash pads should go in this case. Would they be supportive of its use? We've seen that in a previous slide with what we heard. And obviously, you know, what does it cost? You know, the capital costs on this and the operating budgets over time. We compare all this. What public opinion says, what supporting amenities are out there, are we displacing things? Is there site capacity, context, and safety? What would need to be done for site preparation? Are there other professional fees and regulations to be done? And we throw that into budget considerations. We put it all together, mix it up to get what we feel is the best comparison of many, many things, and getting them all together and understanding where we sit with each one of the locations. So in the 3 locations, Heritage Square would be a suitable location for a splash pad if the committee preferred a splash pad that was a little smaller, located in a downtown neighborhood, and suitable for a younger audience. We're thinking primarily the toddler group with provision of a new washroom. So it has needs. Hanover Park would be a suitable location for a splash pad if the committee preferred a splash pad that was a larger and had broader neighborhood draw. And typically when we say that, it means it's going to have a larger catchment area, not necessarily walk-ins. It may have a vehicular need or a transport need to get folks to the site. Are they near other recreational facilities? Hanover Park certainly fit that. There's a lot of programming already on that site. And we felt it had supportive of potential center of excellence opportunity. The Kinsman Park, we felt, does not offer comparable opportunities for successful splash pad given circulation, what we feel circulation and programming challenges. There's an existing stormwater system constraint and heightened opportunities at the other possible locations. So you could get a splash pad likely at Kinsman, but the other 2 seem to rise to our own preference. At the end of the day, it went to committee, the committee voted, and they asked us to develop a preferred park in Hanover Park for development consideration. The splash pad, and you can see they're all numbered and identified, and there's a lot of detail here right now. And I don't necessarily have to go through all the parts right now, but you could see what this is a consolidation of uses in an existing park, bringing things together. Certainly putting in a decently sized splash pad, 275 square meters is what we noted up on there, but we could do a whole lot of other things with this. And I know we've had some questions, and hopefully you can see my cursor here, the splash pads here, which was formerly some park parking environment, and sure, there'll be some loss of parking at this location, but we do create some more parking elsewhere on the site. So our net gain in parking or loss in parking is actually minimal. We're actually gaining spaces ultimately with this scheme. But playing on the fact that, you know, you have existing washrooms, existing youth centers, an existing skate park, sports court, Hanover Park Pavilion, associated parking to it, we felt this was likely an ideal site within this park for it. And we did look at other sites out there within Hanover Park, but this is the one that rose to the occasion for us. We also understand that, you know, we are in that regulated floodplain area, and the more we can do to satisfy Saugeen Valley and meet their requirements and permitting would be obviously beneficial to the feasibility of this. Another big piece for us here is that there's also a visual connection to the rest of the park from this site. So it's not just about developing the upper terrace of the park, it's actually extending a view out and beyond. And this can be very important, certainly if your families with other park users in the family, whether they're walking trails or playing on playground structures and all those sort of things. And, you know, we want to ensure that everyone had something to do and that surveillance could be had with the sighting on this. So, you know, I think generally this is the one that came to us and we developed as best we could, looking at certainly parking and circulation, looking at safety, looking at some of the existing features there and integrating and somehow, you know, dovetailing a nice splash pad feature within this park site. I'll move on to the Center of Excellence right now. Feasibility piece. 4 things we were considering for the development of this. The competing spatial needs to provide adult and senior programming within existing facility allocations, the need to ensure that all facilities can be generational and multifunctional in nature. The town will need to actively engage with its third-party program provider, certainly, and volunteers to ensure effective program delivery. We understood that. We were also told that we have operations that are sustainable for the life of the plan and beyond. So those were kind of the sort of the principles that were offered to us and to make sure we adhere to in the development of a center of excellence. Again, survey had gone out and we were listening to what the community was saying. And here, would you spend more time at Hanover Park if it were developed into a center of excellence? Well, 60% of the respondents said they would, 30% said they might, and 10% said they would not. The majority of the respondents did indicate that they would spend more time at Hanover Park if it was enhanced as a center of excellence park, so heightening up that level of park, and said that Hanover Park was the preferred location for a center of excellence park. And the preferred activities for a park of this nature would be places to gather with others, visiting the playgrounds, walking, picnicking, attending special events, playing in open space, skateboarding, and disc golf was a big piece of it. So we look at this, we take the information, and then we start looking at how, well, let's look at some programming considerations. After all, Center of Excellence would likely have ample opportunity for leisure service delivery, whether it's active or passive recreation. We looked at existing recreational facilities, certainly at the playground level, basketball court or multi-sport courts, the skate park itself. Disc golf had already been on the docket. Circulation, you know, trying to identify, creating a strong identification for the park, having a logical access and staging at park entrance, the driveways itself, the parking areas, and then having ample pedestrian connections within the park through trails and connections. There is an existing infrastructure, as we know. You have a picnic pavilion, you have a campground washroom, and you certainly have, you know, light watercraft, launch canoe or kayak already there. Not saying they don't need enhancement, but they're definitely there, things to build on. And the proposed recreational facilities would include splash pad, heightened play areas, and active exercise features, and perhaps some lower level eventing areas where folks could get together. So the supporting factors for us in looking at this is that, okay, let's look at a community asset. The location being a riverside park, lots of open sweeping lawns, mature trees, natural riverside environment, just a beautiful location. Connections to other things adjacent to it. The Carl Welcome Park was across the street, and the youth center is on site currently. Existing facilities seem to have a good foundation and some adequate infrastructure there, although aging recreation facilities and infrastructure require upgrades or redevelopment. They are there, so there's already a pattern of use and behavior coming to this site. Demographics and consumer demand. It's no secret. A lot of us are aging. We're getting older. There is certain limited recreation facilities for certain demographics. So we need to be able to expand on that. And now the desire for multi-generational activities demands a site that could take that as well. So we have some features. We looked at this. We started off with our connections. There was an existing central driveway linking various parking areas, surrounded trail network, and then the river itself, all connections. The facilities, although aging, they were well used, popular, and certainly would benefit from upgrade. A central activity area. So there's concentration of more active play areas. Visual and physical connectivity was really important, and whether you see it or you actually participate in it, those are two things that could be had in a site like this, and ample opportunity for new programming opportunities just because of the scale of the park, flexible gathering spaces and facilities to accommodate summer camps, that sort of thing. We were also looking at alternative play and exercise, kind of expanding on traditional playground facilities to be more inclusive, also progressive and multi-generational. Again, this site having certainly ample opportunity for that. So we got into some detail, and like I said, you have to get into decent detail to reach informed decision-making when it comes to a feasibility plan. So laying this out, and you've seen the lower part with the splash pad already, but looking at the whole park right now, I think the big thing that are the big items that folks would be encouraged to see would be, a developed trail system all through the park, the disc golf environment, maybe insights for food trucks, some rationalization, justification for parking, and getting the canoe or boat launch all there with parking and that sort of thing, and then having overflow parking. But generally, we did two concepts. This concept does deal with you see these asterisks. These would be kind of exercise stations or activity stations throughout the park, but those could be multi-generational. So it's not only a playground structure necessarily, a boardwalk system coming down and using certainly a lesser use side of the park, having sort of informal gathering areas with this big hub, so the big hub and then all the activities around it. Then as we move to the second one, you can see there's still disc golf, there's still a trail environment, much of the same things are happening, a much larger multi-age playground system in here, and perhaps what we call could be multi-generational, but certainly a more adult-focused exercise station here with this asterisk here. So adult fitness or obstacle courses is what we're looking at. But again, the spirit of this concept is really, it's a hub only nuanced by certainly different networks and facilities throughout. These all come for a cost, we understand that, and I don't want anyone to have really any sticker shock with this because this is phased. So you might look at this and go, wow, the big ground total number is really, really huge. But, this could be projected out over a number of years. So, the budget is based on the master plan concepts for the splash pad and center of excellence feasibility. For the programming based on wants and needs, maybe engineering review, maybe there's a style guide, there's all kinds of other things that may inform more accurate budgeting. We always look at a short, medium, and long term, and basically what you could do in the next couple of years versus what will be done in the 5-10 year term is how you'd look at the phasing on this. There'll always be contingencies, so we put ample contingencies based on that. And the other thing, all these projects and all the sub-projects in this, and these are all appendices certainly within the document itself of the plan. There are professional fees, landscape detail design, construction drawings, engineering, and there'll be permitting and those sort of things that come with it. And that's been suggested at 13.5% of estimated budget. And, way to deal sometimes with your consent or approval permits from the authority is to bundle projects and do as many as you can under one permit. So that takes some forethought and thinking, and, all these projects or any of the projects that are listed in the actual document in the final report can be a bit of capital as well as contingency. So again, I've been going through this very quickly. There's a lot of detail here. But we're at a point now where we have a Hanover Community Splash Pad and Center of Excellence Park feasibility study. It's about a 90-page document with all our imagery that's in it and plans. We went through two parts, part A, part B. So we looked at the splash pad feasibility as an independent project, and then we looked at the Center of Excellence feasibility as a bit of an independent project. We've gone to the community, we've heard from them, and we heard that down here, the park selection from the splash committee ended up being the Hanover Park. We put this all in and created budget estimates and concepts that could be followed and enhanced further. I think I've taken longer than 10 minutes, and I'm certainly willing to take questions on it. Thank you.
Very good, Sean. Thank you. Council, are there any questions or comments at this time? Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Sean, for that detailed report. What was the 759 individuals that were interviewed or filled out the survey? What was the average age? Do you have any idea?
I believe we do have an idea. On the top of my head, I do not know. I'd have to go back into. I'm just going to flip through my document really quickly. I think the average age would have been, I'm going to say parent age. How about that? But generally, let me see. What age group do you belong to? I'm on this online survey results right now. The largest component were, so we have roughly 31 between the 21 to 35 age, 31%, sorry, that's 173. As we move up into the 36 to 50 age group, we have another 193. So, 366. So over half, close to half of the respondents were what I would call parents. You want to get in the grandparent age, 20% of the document, 20% of the respondents came in at the 51 to 65 age. So only 11 or 12% plus 66, and then under 15 or under, let's say, under 15, 2%.
So most of the respondents be more interested in the splash pad or the Park of Excellence?
I think the real, I have a personal feeling on this. We haven't had that. I don't think we asked that as a specific question in the document, but I believe a lot of the respondents were chasing a splash pad.
Thank you very much.
Council, any other comments or questions? Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sean, I'm so excited when I look at the Center of Excellence and the splash pad designs that you've presented us with tonight. I am wondering, of the designs you've done for splash pads, can they be used as ice rinks in the winter?
Yep, through you, Your Worship. They can, but not without problem. We've seen them done out there, but there's a lot of, I'll say there's a lot of splash pad manufacturers that actually choose not to or would rather not to, and for a number of reasons. Well, you might have vertical elements within the splash pad. So you then have to do a splash pad that takes removal of these elements. And there's a burden on the pad itself when you start putting ice and those sort of things on it. But it'd be unfair for me to say absolutely no. It's been done before. And we certainly see them in skate parks. So there's, it does happen.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wondering if the plan that you've done for the parking lot, the existing parking lot splash pad, if that same sizing is available to use if you move it west of the camper's washroom.
Through Your Worship. And just to clarify, if we move it being the splash pad or parking?
No, you already have said that you'd like to use that area for parking, side parking. So I'm just trying to see what page I'm on here. You had two visuals. One was C, and that's the existing parking lot. And you also had D, which is west of the campers washroom. And wondering if the two sizes are comparable.
For the splash pad itself,
Correct.
that's correct. They are.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the report. It's a lot of detail there, and it certainly helped me in as I consider this. One of the concerns that I've heard over the course of the creation of the splash pad was safety regarding the traffic flows there. In your expert opinion, is there a lot of concern at the Hanover Park with vehicles intermixing with the pedestrian traffic there, or are there some other suggestions you would have to address that?
Through your worship, it's a great question. It's one we always take seriously. And it's always the balance of surveillance for children that are not using splash pads, running off to playgrounds and other things, and they have to cross a lane of travel or a parking area and those sort of things. We're always very concerned with it. The splash pad as we have it right now would be a contained facility. So you actually enter it into a fenced area. Notwithstanding, however, there's still cars going by. We tried to push that to the outside and to the north side of where the existing laneway is pretty much now over by the existing pavilion area. And we've left that, and what we're suggesting, and again, you remember, this is a feasibility and there could be a lot more detail added to this, but we've shown something that's a different pavement surface, which could be textured, it could be colored, identifying the lane, coordinating the lane, and certainly heightening the lane with either movable planters that could be brought out during the splash pad season, if you want to call it that. Probably putting a stop sign there, putting bumper guards or the rollover bumps throughout. Speed bumps would help as well. I think the splash pad is far enough from that roadway, and because it's contained and you can enter from the one area, we don't have to go through any parking lots, and all the adjacent facilities that we think most children and parents will want have been bundled together. I believe our points of conflict have been minimized.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Other comments, questions? Okay, Sean, thank you to you and your team. We appreciate your knowledge and your insight into both of these studies, and we look forward to moving forward with this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us. Good night, everyone.
Okay, item 8 on the agenda is business arising from the minutes, and we do not have any. Item 9 is Council and Committee of the Whole minutes. 9.1 is the regular council meeting minutes from June the 19th. I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Sackle. You'll remember at that meeting, we had 2 public meetings. One, a zoning bylaw amendment for 642 10th Avenue to rezone the land from R1 to R3, and a second public meeting to amend our comprehensive zoning bylaw. Both of those amendments passed. And we also announced that the recipient of the 2023 Hanover Senior of the Year was Ann Hahn. Are there any questions or comments with those minutes? I will call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Item 9.2 is our special meeting minutes from July the 5th. I need a mover and seconder for those minutes. Councillor Fleet and Councillor Hudson. And that special council meeting on July 5th was our strategic plan workshop, and it was our second session. And I believe it's August, Sherry, that we will hear some information about the plan. So, all right, all in favor of those minutes, carrying those minutes. That's carried, thank you. Item 10 is staff reports. 10.1 is report FI 0623. The subject is the Hanover Fire Department firefighting training environment campaign policies. It's from our fire chief, Chief Deniger, and I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Sacco. Chief?
Thank you, Your Worship. As you know, Hanover Fire Department is in the midst of building a new station. This building will be designed as a base of operations for training and response. A portion of the new station is designed for training. This is required to meet the ongoing training needs of our staff, but also to ensure we are meeting provincial standards for certification testing. This training area could also be utilized by other fire departments with the potential for local spin-offs for businesses in the area. Incorporating the construction of the training area into the design and build of the station is the most cost-effective option. The training environment will include training elements for high angle search and rescue, low-rise fire attack, pump apparatus operations, firefighter certification, and much more. There are significant benefits to this training environment. Reduce cost of training, our equipment, our instructors, our processes and procedures. Firefighters training with their own team are more prepared, and this provides a safer work environment. Higher proficiency and confidence of firefighters, training props that can be built in and not have to be moved about when needed, reducing cost, time, and potential injury. Training area has movable walls and can be reconfigured for each training evolution, increasing challenge and knowledge. A compressed air system that will simulate water in the hoses, but without the mess in the station. Simulated smoke that will reduce firefighter disability, but is not harmful to the firefighters or the station. Examples of fixed suppression systems such as sprinklers, alarm panels, fire department connections, a monitoring area with infrared cameras to allow instructors to see the actions of the firefighters without impeding their progress in the simulations, and much more. To assist with the cost of the training environment, it is proposed that we implement a sponsorship opportunity. This would be marketed to present and new corporate partners, local organizations, and the general public. Platinum sponsors would be $20,000, but would include a significant amount of publicity, both at the time of the donation, during the build, opening, and during ongoing training activity. The platinum donor will include naming sponsorship of the entire training environment, recognition on a sponsorship wall, social media posts at the time of donation, at groundbreaking and grand opening. In addition, social media posts will include the name of the area during ongoing training activity, and much more. Gold sponsorship would be $5,000 and would include naming of one of the 4 training rooms used in search and rescue training. The name of the donor would be located on the door and used as an address for search and rescue training. Signing within the room would be the company or organization logo, as well as many opportunities for media coverage as well as inclusion on the sponsor wall. Silver sponsors would be $2,500 and would include the naming of a specific training prop in their honor, such as our forced entry prop or a hose cabinet. Signage would be installed on or beside the prop to indicate the donation, as well as many opportunities for media coverage. Bronze sponsors would be $1,000 to $2,499, which would include a number of mentions in media as well as on the sponsor wall. And then heroes donation would be $500 to $1,000, which would include social media posts and a group photo. As far as financial obligations, the cost of the training environment has been included in the overall budget for the construction of the new fire station. Funds received as a result of this campaign will assist in reducing overall cost of the construction of the training environment. Recommendation is that report FI 0623 Hanover Fire Department Firefighter Training Environment Campaign be received, and that council approve the campaign policies and authorize staff to begin the campaign as outlined.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for the chief? Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Chief, for that report. With regards to the training rooms, and do we need any type of government approval to do this type of training at the facility, or is this something we can just do on our own?
There's no requirement for government approval. We've used designs of other training facilities and made them specific to our needs. They would, of course, follow any Ontario Building Code requirements. But it really is focusing on the needs of the department and making sure that we're training for today and tomorrow as well.
Okay, thanks. So that this would just be our own training. It wouldn't involve training from other departments in the area.
It would certainly be focused on our needs, but available to other departments, which I think would be a good opportunity for them. Really, the training environment is there to ensure that no evolution is the same with movable walls and all the other activities that we're building into it. All of the training that we need to do can be done inside. We don't need to worry about the weather. And it's way more than we have available to us right now.
And so would there be a cost to other departments to come in and use our training facility?
I would expect so.
Any other comments or questions? This is exciting. We're getting closer. So, all right, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Item 10.2 is report FI 0823. It's from, the subject is the amendment to bylaw to establish and regulate a fire department in our town. It's from our chief, and I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Hudson. Chief?
Thank you, Your Worship. The bylaw, which establishes and regulates a fire department for the town of Hanover, requires an annual review to ensure that it's accurate and current. At present, the bylaw requires only an amendment to change the present residency requirement for fire department personnel. A review of services offered by Hanover Fire was completed in 2023. During this review, the town of Hanover risk assessment was utilized to understand potential risk areas within the municipality and services that have been put in place to reduce identified risk. The results of the review have determined the need for the following suggested changes. Presently, Section 5, subsection D indicates that firefighters are expected to reside within the response area, and any deviation of this standard must be approved by the fire chief. The suggested change is firefighters are expected to reside within a 5-kilometer radius of the fire department station, and any deviation will be approved by the fire chief. This change will ensure that firefighters remain within a respectable area from the fire station to ensure an efficient response. There are no cost implications associated with this change, and the link to the strategic plan is for sustainable municipal operations. The recommendation is that report FI 0823 be received, that council approve the attached report, and that council pass the amendment to bylaw 3223-22.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Chief. Does this change affect any current staff that you have?
Through you, Your Worship. No, we did a mapping with Grey County GIS to make sure that we were considering both our present staff, but also the amount of time it would take to get to this station. And this seems to be the best representation for us.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Item 10.3 is report FI 0923. The subject is the Hanover Municipal Disaster Emergency Services Bylaw update. And again, it's from our chief. And I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Sackle and Councillor Fleet. Chief?
Thank you, Your Worship. The Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act requires each municipality to have a council-approved municipal emergency response plan. As part of our annual review, the plan requires updates to remain current to ensure that our planning for and response to emergencies continues to be effective as possible. Hanover's Emergency Response Plan is an all-hazards approach to identify risks posed to a community to protect life, property, and the environment. This includes the protection of critical infrastructure. Our emergency response plan defines how the town will plan, prepare for, and mitigate an emergency situation where responders may be needed additional resources and support to effectively manage the situation. Our plan has been updated to ensure it is current, effective, and comprehensive. Any suggested changes to the document have been highlighted. Red font indicated the additions and black strike through indicated deletions. Along with a small amount of administrative changes, the key changes are summarized within the chart that's listed in the report. There are no financial implications as a result of this report, and the link to the strategic plan is environment and sustainable municipal operations. The recommendation is that report FI 0923 be received and that council approve the attached report and attached emergency management plan, and that council pass the amendments to bylaw 3062-19 Town of Hanover Emergency Management Program and Plan.
Very good. Comments or questions? I like the way it was presented. So you could follow along what was changed. So, all right, all in favor of report FI 0923? That's carried. Item 10.4 is report CL 0523. The subject is the municipal website redesign request for proposal. It's from Vicky McDonald, our clerk, and I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Hawking and Councillor Hudson. Vicky?
Thank you, Your Worship. Hanover's website serves as the primary customer service touch point for the public to source information on municipal services, news, events, and departments. It is an essential and valuable communication tool. In 2012, a new website was developed in conjunction with municipal rebranding. A website refresh was subsequently completed in 2018, 2019 in an effort to improve the site navigation and visual appeal. The current design, however, the platform and technical capabilities no longer meet the service needs of the community or the municipality. In developing a new website, the goal is to create an easy-to-use, visually appealing, accessible, and user-focused design. Another key objective was to simplify the content management system used by staff to realize efficiencies while still achieving a quality design that will improve and enhance service levels and communication. The RFP issued May 3rd was advertised on the town website and on Bid and Go. 11 proposals were received. One was rejected for late submission and another because it did not meet the RFP requirements. The remaining proposals were evaluated by a project team comprised of our economic development manager, deputy clerk administrative assistant, parks rec and culture administrative supervisor, myself, and the human resource manager. This proposal resulted in 3 bidders being invited to present their proposal and give a live demonstration of their solution. And in the chart that's included in the report, it lists our 3 proponents, which were GHD Solutions, Mad Hatter, and Up and Up Studios, Inc. The total project cost are listed as well, and they range from $46,124 to $50,765. There were various evaluation protocols that were used to review and assess the proposed bids. These included qualifications and relevant experience, quality of the proposal, the project methodology, product features and capabilities, Canadian content, the overall impression from both the proposal and the live demonstration, and the cost as well. The project team is recommending that the contract for website redesign services be awarded to Up and Up Studios, Inc. The professionalism of their proposal, their demonstration and project team expertise, combined with their intuitive design, content management system, and accessibility features met or exceeded the RFP deliverables. Up and Up Studio is recognized as a leader in digital solutions for local government with significant experience in municipal website creation and design, and their clients include a number of area municipalities. The company is fully Canadian owned and operated, with website hosting contained entirely in Canada. Financial implications: the proposal is within the approved budget allocation of $45,000 for site design. The current annual hosting and support costs that we currently pay are in the range of $3,900. So we would see an annual increase in these costs to about, My screen froze. To vote $9,840 per year. And the 2024 budget will include this updated amount. The link to this strategic plan includes economic development, community and sustainable municipal operations. The recommendation is that council receive report CL 05-23 municipal website redesign request for proposal, that the development and implementation of a new corporate website for the town of Hanover be awarded to Up and Up Studios, Inc. in the amount of $50,765 plus HST, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to enter into a contract with Up and Up Studios, Inc. Thank you. I'll answer any questions that you may
Thanks.
have.
Thanks, Vicky. Any questions? Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. I like the idea of easy to navigate, especially for a guy like me. So I'm looking forward to that. My question is, they quote us $45,000 for site design. Do you have an opportunity as it's being designed to go in and try it yourself? So, or is it, here you go, here's the final product, and we get it and we find a few glitches along the way? Are we able to sort of, it's the word, massage the design to meet our needs?
Yes, throughout the entire process, there is customizable template that they provide, but the setup, the content, the key features, menus, all of that content is constructed to our preferences and requests. We have the opportunity, they hold weekly reviews and updates, so that we have the opportunity to address any concerns that come up at that time, or if there's any changes we would like to see. There's a full testing done with any issues we find being fixed and repaired prior to the site launch.
Other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. and Thank you, Vicky, for the report. What is the estimated launch time or launch target date?
Yes, sorry. We are proposing by the end of this year, we will have the new site launched and running.
That's good. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Vicky. Just out of curiosity, the operational costs currently are just under 4,000 and going to 98 now. So are you getting more features with that, or what's the difference between what you're paying now and what you will be paying a year?
So yes, we are currently limited on the number of pages, the volume of content that we can upload, the number of events. So with the new proposal and design, we have an unlimited number of pages. There's no limitation in terms of the file sizes. They indicated that there would be no limitation with the file sizes that were required to upload.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Vicky. I'm on side with Councillor Hawking. I think it's got to be easy to navigate. It's got to be kept simplified. And I think we've got to get it right because, I hear a lot of people struggle with the website we have now. So I think I think it's time to get it right. So I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Councillor Hawking, did you have a comment?
No, I just agree with Councillor Fleet all the time.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? It'll be another exciting to see this occurring. So very good. All in favor of report CL 0523. That is carried. Okay, item 10.5 is report PRZ 0823. The subject is the Community Splash Pad and Center of Excellence Park Feasibility Study Report. It's from Laura Kristen, our Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture. And I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Hawking and Deputy Mayor Dickert. Laura.
Great, thank you, Your Worship. So this project started just over a year ago, July of 2022, when council approved a notice of motion directing staff to prioritize a feasibility study to investigate the capital and operating costs associated with implementing a splash pad into the town. This notice of motion was to consider the splash pad being a phase one potentially of the Center of Excellence concept, or a standalone, also considering Heritage Square and other possible sites within our town. This notice of motion was in response to a grassroots community residents group who came and did a delegation, and certainly have been continued to show their support to this project. Moving forward to November was when council directed staff to hire Plural to conduct the feasibility study. The scope of the work stated that the splash pad development be the priority of the first phase of development, and that the COE park would be the secondary priority, with the pre-design work to be developed into phases. Plural's work included the consideration of the green space sites. It also included the public input survey. It included input from the PRC Advisory Committee, as well as they conducted discussions with Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, because one of the sites did fall within their regulated area. Residents of the grassroots community group were also engaged via that PRC Advisory Committee. Plural's report was included in full with tonight's agenda package, as well as their staff did provide an overview of their findings as a delegation at today's meeting. And I also want to note that at the June 28th PRC Advisory Committee meeting, members did review a draft version of the report and pass the following motion: that the Town of Hanover PRC Advisory Committee reviewed the Hanover Community Splash Pad and Center of Excellence Feasibility Study draft report prepared by Plural, and supports that the report be presented to council. For a project of this size and nature, it is crucial to gather information at different phases in order to successfully move that project forward. And the Plural feasibility study provides council with a better understanding of the project feasibility and will enable more informed decision-making. The next step is staff, myself, will be preparing a splash pad recommendation report that will be presented at an upcoming council meeting. The goal is for the August meeting. This report will include a recommendation based on the analysis of Plural's report, as well as taking into consideration factors such as community needs and overall feasibility. This recommendation report will provide council with an opportunity to consider all of the information, including the details in Plural's report. And the intent of this report will be to seek council's approval and commitment to build the splash pad, to identify the location of the splash pad, and to outline the financial terms. Also note that the PRC Advisory Committee will be engaged to help determine with that phased in approach for that COE park for council's consideration. At this time, there are no financial implications to this report, and the link to strategic plan is economic development, community, and sustainable municipal operations. And the recommendations before you this evening are as follows: that report PRC 0823 splash pad, community splash pad and Center of Excellence Park feasibility study report be received by council. That the council accept the community splash pad and Center of Excellence Park feasibility study report prepared by Plural. That staff be directed to create the splash pad recommendation report to be brought forward at the August 14th council meeting. And that the Parks, Recreation, Culture Advisory Committee consider a phased implementation plan for the COE park once council has provided their direction for the proposed splash pad development.
Thanks, Laura. Any comments or questions on the process? Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is just a comment, and the residents of Hanover, we've been waiting for a splash pad for some time, and there's a group of residents that have been working very hard on this project, and I feel it's time that we build the splash pad now and build the Park of Excellence around the splash pad once the Park of Excellence is approved by council. I just feel very strongly it's time to move forward with this project, and it's got my support.
Councillor Hawking.
This is an example of my previous statement. I agree with Councillor Fleet's suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Dicker.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think really appreciate having that report to look at, because there was a lot of questions that I had in my mind up until that time, and it's answered most of them. And also very good to see one of the original proponents in our audience here tonight. I think they've done a lot of work on this. The next step that we've done here by having this feasibility study done, I think really helps pave the way forward. And I as well support moving forward with this. I thank the committee for the work they've done so far, and sure hope we can count on them going forward from here as well, because I think it'd be a great addition to our town, and just wish everyone the best success with it. So thank you.
Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Worship, and thanks, Laura. In seriousness, I just want to tell council, I had my first meeting as the council rep on the ad hoc committee looking at the fundraising for this. And there is a very committed sense of agreement, I would say, with the outcome. I just want to thank Laura and all of the committee members, and especially Marion and Lee for their leadership in this. And I know it'll become a reality, and just a shout out to everyone who has pulled together, and hopefully we can come up with a plan of action that moves this project along very quickly, and it becomes a reality, because there are many individuals that want it. And when you look at the responses, it's almost, to the survey, it's almost double the number of responses that we got for our strategic plan. So obviously it's very, very important to the community at large. And I think it's time we get on with it. And I'm looking forward to the next stage in the process. Thanks again, Laura.
Councillor Sacco.
I agree with my colleagues' remarks, and thanks to Marion and Lee and the grassroots group. But I want to share a little story, and I know I've shared a little bit of it before, that when I was campaigning, that I had a particular woman who said to me, "Susan, I just want to know, where do you stand on the splash pad?" And I said, "Oh, I'm absolutely for it." And she said, "Okay, you've got my vote." Her name was Pat Mercy. And sadly, Pat passed away a couple of weeks ago, and sorry that she's never going to see the splash pad, but her family will. And just makes me sad thinking about it. But I know how long it takes in these phases we have to go through in these feasibility studies. But I just want to share that story. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would encourage council members, if you have questions and you want to get some answers so that we get a fulsome, thorough report from Laura in the August meeting. Not to give you more work, Laura, but if residents are talking about the splash pad or the Center of Excellence Park, please forward them to Laura so she can get a head start on them and put it in the report. So, yeah. Okay, I will call the question. All in favor of PRC 0823? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, item 10.6 is PRC 0923. The subject is the extended ice direction. It's from Laura Kristen, our Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture. And I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Fleet and Councillor Sacco. Laura?
Thank you, Your Worship. I know it's 25 degrees out there, but we're talking ice. So the upcoming ice 23-24 ice season is scheduled to begin September the 5th. And traditionally, the ice season lasts for 28 weeks and is typically removed mid to end March. Using this past practice, this would translate to staff removing that ice and that plant shutdown process as early as Sunday, March 17th, which is typically usually right at the very end of March break. Over the last two ice seasons, council will recall that requests have been brought forward to extend the PNH Center ice season beyond that 28 weeks to allow any teams to continue to have that home ice should they have a deep run in the playoffs. I have provided in my report a summary of kind of a 5-year historical look at our ice in and ice out. There is COVID impacts that certainly are detailed in this report, but gives you a bit of a trend over the last 5 years. So last February, council approved report PRC 0323, which was the extended ice report last year, and it resulted in the following resolution: that the report be received and that council approve extending the ice as detailed for the 2023 season, and that the applicable council approved subsidy, excluding the BBBAS, the Build Back Better solution, be applied to current Hanover user groups for the balance of that ice season. So if you recall, due to some pre-booked community arena floor rentals, the 2023 extended ice plan did include the reservation of an ice surface cover to accommodate both that floor rental and the ice use should the Barons have advanced to the Schmaltz Cup finals. I will note, however, it is not advisable to continue with this solution in the future. This is mainly due to the rising costs associated with that floor rental, the significant amount of labor needed to install and remove a temporary floor, as well as some unknowns of operating an event such as a trade show when the ice is still present. It may affect the comfort of attendees, like temperature, as well as pose some capacity restrictions on that temporary ice surface. If anyone attended the Home and Garden Show this past year, there was a hot tub and boat and vehicles. So, that's certainly part of the equation. Additionally, renting that ice surface creates a minimum 7-day period in which ice users would be displaced anyways, to allow for that installation and removal of the floor covering, as well as there could be some ice maintenance required to ensure that the ice is safe for users once it's removed. The discussion. So there are concerns relating to that length of our 28-week season has been raised by the Hanover Barons executive during our recent agreement conversations. The 2024 PJHL playoff schedule has been confirmed after a league vote, and the vote was to return to a format where they would play in their centers rather than a weekend finals. The Barons have shared that while a number of centers noted a concern with the extended dates and availability of home ice, the vote approved the playoff schedule that spans from February the 27th, and should it go all the way to the Schmaltz Cup finals, it must be completed by Monday, May the 20th. The PJHL has noted to their members that they are to confirm the availability of their ice in their home center for playoffs. And should ice not be available, teams need to be prepared to look at alternative facilities, which would be required to confirm ice in those alternative facilities accordingly, which is one of the reasons why we're bringing this forward today. Should the Barons advance all the way to the Schmaltz Cup finals, the ice would need to remain in until Monday, May the 20th. And this would have several impacts on PNH Center operations, including the following. The first one is our arena floor rentals. So to allow our staff enough time to remove the ice, arena floor rentals could not be booked until that week of May 27th. Past requests such as the Home and Garden Show, Carrie Moore School of Dance, the SEAM Fair, Hanover Hospital Fundraising Gala, which is typically biannually, often occur in the spring. By extending that ice beyond the usual time frame, there is a risk of significantly impacting the plans of these organizations that depend on the arena floor to host their events. And it is important to consider that these events are typically not scheduled during the July and August months, which really only leaves a short window of 6 weeks for arena floor rentals. This extension of the ice could lead to conflicts and potentially forcing these organizations to either postpone their events or seek alternative venues. This potential displacement or delays could have negative operational consequences on our community organizations that utilize the arena floor for their events. Direction from council regarding the commitment for the ice extension, if required, will provide PRC staff with the certainty to accept or reject rentals on the arena floor during the months of April and May. Other factors such as community interest, economic spin-offs, and potential long-term impacts on our ice plant during warmer temperatures should also be considered. Staffing needs is another impact on the P&H Center operations. In April and May, there is a need to move our facility operators outside to prepare for our outdoor season. Any delay could result in negative impacts and put the department behind at a disadvantage in terms of completing regular spring tasks. Also, budgeting. Extending the ice season requires additional budget needs as detailed in the financial implications of this report. The proposed direction is as follows. There will be a commitment to provide extended ice to the third Monday in May 20th. Now, noting that only if a Hanover Ice Group requires this ice for playoff play. Should the team be eliminated before that, then the ice would be removed. At such time, when the ice is no longer required by a Hanover Ice user, the department will provide any user groups 3 days notice that ice permits will be considered complete and the ice out will commence immediately. This commitment shall be from May 2027 to May 2027. So the reason is that it aligns with the current council term and considers that traditional ice season begins in September and ends in March of the following year. No community arena floor bookings would be confirmed from April 1st to that 4th week in May. The extended ice direction will be reviewed and reconfirmed during each council term. For example, should this direction be approved, it will be reviewed following the 2026 municipal election and will become effective during the ice season of 2027 to 2028. Should Hanover Ice Groups not require ice past the typical end season date, the ice will be removed as normally planned. Okay, so the financial implications. So typically there are additional expenses that include utilities, ice resurfacer operations, staff wages and benefits. They're projected to be approximately $3,476 weekly. And the additional revenue that I've provided is based on projected ice rentals. Okay, so these are just estimates at this point. Two scenarios have been provided below. The first one is calculated with the subsidy rates being applied, excluding the BBAS. So kind of following that direction that council provided last year. And the second scenario, B, is when the subsidies, without subsidies applied. The only thing I do want to note in the B is it says, as noted, council's direction was to apply council approved subsidies excluding BBAS, and that should be for the 2022-23 extended ice season. So there is a typo there. So for both options A and B, the financial revenue projections are based on 2023 to 2024 ice season rental rates. And it is anticipated that the proposed direction detailed above and there will be an annual net loss with increase each year given typical increases for the operating costs. Also, note the cost associated with not being able to deploy that staff to regular outdoor activities has not been considered in this calculation. It is strongly anticipated there will be a need to hire an additional staff member or short-term period to cover the additional hours and to assure that the department remains on task for our outdoor operations. This has been estimated at approximately $4,050. The unknown factor that has not been accounted for is the long-term impacts on the ice plant operations during an extended ice period when there is more probability of warmer temperatures. So that's something that is a bit of an unknown. Staff are also seeking council's direction with respect to applying that subsidies for any rentals beyond that 28-week season. So many of our user groups qualify for a subsidy that ranges from 25 to 30%, whether it's not for profit or a youth subsidy. And many groups also qualify for that Build Back Better assistance strategy, which will increase that subsidy from 25 to 30 to 35 to 40. For most of our ICE user groups, the BBBAS subsidy does end at the end of the 2023-24 season, as it was a 3-year commitment by council. In addition, staff will consider ICE rental fees after April 1st and possibly after May 1st during an upcoming budget preparation and rental reviews. It may be prudent for our rates and fees bylaw to include an ICE rate after April 1st and possibly after May 1st. Note that council approved ICE rental rates become effective for the following September, given the ice season occurs over 2 municipal budget years. Currently, our ICE rental booking agreement policy terms indicates organizations requiring the ICE service to be maintained beyond the normal schedule ICE removal date shall be subject to the following unless superseded by an alternate agreement, and the following shall be effective as of April 1st, that it is double the regular ICE rate for games, and ICE rates for all practice and non-games would be the regular ICE season, which is for 2023 will be 154 per hour. So the link to the strategic plan is economic development, it's community, municipal operations. And the recommendations before you this evening is that report PRC 0923 extended ICE direction be received, that council approve extending the ICE as detailed until the end of the 2025-26 ICE season, and that council provide direction with respect to applying the applicable user group subsidy after that April 1st date.
Thanks, Laura. Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, Laura, it's quite a predicament, isn't it? And, you know, there's nothing we can't ask possible rentals. Well, by the way, the Barons got kicked out, so now you can have the ICE. They just can't move at a flip of the coin. So I'm curious, usually if I was running an event, I would be asking you the year before, how many groups have approached you, if I may ask, already for rentals next year, like the Home and Garden Show, for instance?
There's one currently that is very keen to have direction for that date.
So you simply told them it's to be determined?
They're probably watching from home tonight. They're aware of this delegation or this report.
Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Laura, for the comprehensive report. It seems, and I want to state up front that I'm a strong supporter for junior hockey. However, it seems from reading the report that the PJHL basically told everyone, these are the playoff dates and you got to basically buy into it. They also note in the report that that other centers have voted a concern. So I'm going to ask this question. Has the PGHL ever considered doing a couple things like cutting back from a 28-week season to 26? Or have they considered starting earlier in September? Or have they thought of changing the format? You know, some of these go best out of 7. Could they do best out of 5? I just think that this is a partnership and maybe they have to give a bit so that, and you nailed it right on. It's not just the economic spinoff. I'm concerned about running the ICE plant in the end of May. We look around us, we look at the temperatures. I think the the fact it would cost us a lot less to start up in September than it would to keep. And let's hope that, if they were successful in May, but I guess my question, I'm doing a lot of yapping here, Laura, but did the Hockey Association ever consider any changes in their schedule or being a bit flexible? Like I just mentioned, start earlier, shorter playoff times, so that we could finish, let's say, May the 6th instead of, look at you, May the 7th to May the 20th. That's almost 2 full weeks of, and you might get 2 games out of it. Can you imagine the cost of, and what we're tossing aside from the economic spinoff, people who have used us over the years? So I'll just be quiet and let you answer me, Laura.
Through you, your worship. So what I can say, I don't know all of the factors that the PJHL has considered. But what I can share is that a lot of the organizations don't face this problem because they have ice year round. So unfortunately, it's the lion's share of organizations that do have that year round ice. And this is a non-issue. It's a non-issue for them.
Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Laura, for that report. I'm a strong supporter of the Hanover Barons. I played with the Hanover Barons in 1971, too, long time ago. I support any minor hockey team or any sport in our community. I'm really disappointed in the PGHL though, because they're putting a lot of pressure and strain on small communities like Hanover, Wingham, Kincardine, Mount Forest, etc. One question I have, why we put the ice in like the end of August, so that there'll be ice in there like the 3rd of September. 5th of September. So there's a lot of strain. The month of September can be a pretty warm month. Why does our ice go in so early? Because I know a lot of the older guys I play with don't want to play hockey till October. So is there full bookings in September?
So for example, the Barons, their first game request is for the 8th of September. That's now that'll be exhibition. So yeah, they start right off. Your adult user groups, I would agree with you. Your good timers, that type of group, they typically don't start right away, but your minor hockey, your figure skating, all of the typical youth groups are right away.
Yeah, so the ice is actually going in because of the Baron schedule, that in a roundabout way.
Minor hockey as well as and the other user groups are also, it's not just the Barons, but they do have a game early in the year.
Yeah. This isn't just about the Barons come
Correct.
spring. There could be a midget team go all Ontario and need ice till the 1st of May. I don't know.
Fair.
I personally myself, I don't have a problem with ice in that building till the first part of May, but after the first part of May, I think, sorry.
Sherry, you have a comment?
Just some history and to augment what Laura has said there is that since the P&H Center was built, there has been more demand ask for the ice to be available earlier. And that usually has been that first Tuesday after Labor Day, which is our typical ice available date for mostly minor hockey, ringette, and the Barons. So yes, there's that need for that September ice. And again, the dates that are there, and I echo a little bit about what Councillor Hawking says, the PJHL is somewhat dictating to small municipalities what the dates are. Now, 2 things. The division finals are earlier than they were last year. So if you recall, the Barons were in the division finals and they went until April the 17th. It's just the factor that you advance in those various post local playoff divisions, those division finals, you could be going till May 20th. And from a minor hockey standpoint, unless they've changed their playoff format, they have gone to a year-end tournament for those provincial qualifying teams, and they usually have that first weekend of April or that second weekend of April. So yeah, we're in a bit of a rock and a hard place with ice in and ice out dates for sure.
So Laura, my question, when you talk about youth rentals and adult rentals, there, first of all, that's not a guarantee, correct? When your estimate here. It's not a guarantee, right?
Correct. It's just based off of previous year's data. It's a projection estimate.
So we could be losing more money than what is in this report. Also, like those groups would any of those groups be booking like a skating competition or something? That if the Barons didn't make it to the finals and we had a skating competition, would we have to keep the ice in for that skating competition? Or do you say we have ice if the Barons go into the playoffs, but don't book any competitions?
Yeah, that's the direction that we would take. So we wouldn't book anything that would be significant if the date had to change. So we've given what the practice, what we're proposing is that we give those rentals kind of that 3-day notice. Once that final team has been eliminated from the playoffs, then the ice removal process will happen. So it wouldn't be the intention to keep the ice in for any particular event past that 28-week season.
So that would all be shared up front with all the groups, that it all hinges on the Barons.
That's right.
Okay. Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. Another question I forgot to ask is, and you may not know this, the PGHL decided to go to a different format this year. I think last year they had like a tournament, which made sense. So you just play one weekend and you decide the winner of the Junior C. Do you know why they went back to the old format, which again puts pressure on each municipality to provide ice?
Without attending that annual meeting, I'd just be speculating at this point. Gate sales could have something to do with it. Your fans having to travel. But again, going to that vote, it went to a vote to reevaluate that season, and it was passed as presented this evening.
Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. Laura, have you been in communication with any other municipalities, see where they stand, like North here in Mount Forest? Like, have you got a feel for what direction they're going at all?
Not yet. This hasn't been brought forward at any other communities at this point. Certainly as part of my process, I was reviewing other agreements from neighboring municipalities. Some are very loose and, state that the ice will be in as long, and then some are very cut and dry and says, ice is going to be removed 3rd week of March, no matter what the condition of the team. So right now, I know everyone is currently doing their agreements and their deliberations and negotiations, so not yet.
I just wonder, as a group of municipalities, say North Huron, Hanover, Mount Forest, if we put pressure on the PGHL with our concerns, I don't know.
Councillor Hawking.
Yeah, I'd like to support Councillor Fleet's suggestion. I think we should put this on hold and do a bit of researching or talking to our neighbors who are in the same situation as us, and maybe I know Laura mentioned that they all have year-round ice, but it really is a stressful situation for those municipalities that do not have year-round ice. And I think if we formed sort of a little group and made a presentation to the PGHL, they could change even maybe the amount of games they're allocating to the playoffs. I mean, what's the difference between 2 games, but a 3 out of 5? And if you could just eliminate that May 7th to May 20th, that would really, really help us be able to accomplish both our objectives, help our community members out and also help the hockey team.
Councillor Hawking, I agree with your suggestion, but I have a feeling that these dates are set in stone for this season coming up, that they're not going to be changed at this point. They voted on it. It'll take a vote the following year. But it's a good idea to work with the other municipalities that are in the same situation. And at a minimum, we could send a letter sharing our concerns and displeasure with what it's doing to smaller municipalities. And we could wait on that once you've talked to other North Huron, Mount Forest. Who else is in that?
Kincardine.
Kincardine, Mount Forest, Walkerton, and those communities they don't leave their ice in year round. Mount Forest doesn't, Hanover doesn't, Walkerton doesn't, Wingham doesn't, Mitchell doesn't. They're in the league. So I don't think any of those municipalities leave their ice in year round.
So they will either be leaving their ice in later or looking for other facilities to play if their teams make it into the finals. Sherry?
Yeah, so three things. I agree with Mayor Sue. The PJHL decision is made for this season. I highly doubt that us forming a group of 5 or 6 centers will make them see a change. However, I also agree with the letter piece. I think that's an opportunity for Laura to take that to her directors group and seek some common support there. You know, for Laura and her sake, she's having conversations with our junior C team around their agreement. That's a key piece of their season start. So delaying this decision will delay Laura's opportunity to confirm an agreement with them, which is an important part of making sure before they hit the ice that that's in place. So hence the recommendation that's included is what it is. The direction she was looking at from council was the subsidy piece. So you can still delay. I'm just making very upfront based on where I know Laura is at with her conversations.
To further Sherry's comments, it will also assist, the agreement would be stalled with the Barons. We also have arena floor users that are very much wanting to get a solid booking in as well. And these in the facing delays and time is ticking.
Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Laura, in your information package here, there's a paragraph that says the PJHL has noted to their member organizations that they're to confirm the availability of ice in their home center for playoff play, and should ice not be available, teams should be prepared to play in alternate facilities. So are they checking into those alternate facilities? Should we decide that we're not going past the end of March?
Through Your Worship. So yeah, we will need to make a decision, and whatever that decision is will dictate if they're looking for alternative ice or if they will know that they have that assurance that all games will be played in Hanover.
So then it's sort of leaving it up to them as well. If we've made a decision to have it out earlier, they have to then find an ice with all of those other municipalities that will in fact leave the ice in. Is that correct?
Yes, I don't know if it's necessarily the Barons that will be looking or the PGHL, but if that's the case, the alternative ice will need to be investigated.
Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. And like I said, I'm all right with to the first weekend of May, but past the first weekend of May, I find it very difficult with other, like I'm sure whoever is looking at booking is probably not looking, they're probably looking into May, mid-May, I'm not sure, but we didn't have any bookings. What was the Home and Garden Show booking last year?
May 5th to 8th, if I recall. I could find that pretty quick. Is that right? Anybody can find it really quick?
So the Home and Garden Show this year was that May 6th and 7th is when attendees or people going could go, but that setup started on the Thursday before, Laura, would you say?
Yeah.
So that was May 4th, the Thursday before. And again, if you keep ice in until May 1st, ideally, our facility staff have 7 days to get it out, get that floor ready for the next user. Can we do it in a short period of time? It definitely puts pressure on our facility operators to meet a very high demand from taking it out and getting it ready at a time when they are needing to be outside, getting our fields and parks ready for outdoor use. It's just the Parks and Rec world of those shoulder seasons, but that was the date.
Laura?
One thing also to add, just keep in mind that in May, you also have Mother's Day weekend, which is typically the second weekend in May. And you also have the May 2-4 long weekend. So those 2 weekends typically are not attractive for arena floor rentals. But that's just another factor to consider.
Councillor Hawking.
I understand the point that Sherry made that the PJHL has made a decision, but I'm not convinced that if we, along with the municipalities that Councillor Fleet mentioned, and we all said to the PGHL, yeah, we're okay with May the 1st, they wouldn't maybe take another look at their playoff schedule and say, I think we need to accommodate most of the teams in our division. But having said that won't happen, I still think it's incumbent upon us to contact these other municipalities and sort of get a feel of where they're standing from. I know Sherry mentioned a letter to Laura's counterparts, but if that works to generate some type of discussion long-term on this, or we're just held hostage to sort of, here it is, folks, take it and I guess just take it. Don't react. And I'm quite disappointed. I, along with Harold, played minor hockey here too and support all minor hockey. But the fact is that the undue costs in labor, the use of the ice plant, and we've mentioned all these is very suspect, and I just don't want to leave this to I'll make a vote, cast my vote, but I think this shouldn't be dropped. And I mean, Laura has said this is going to last for the term of this council. We're not going to have it again. It'll be up to the next council. So basically, you're making a decision for 3 years. And things can change in 3 years. Anyway, that's my point. Thank you.
It's not set in stone that it's this term of council. We could make it for 1 year. Like there's nothing, we can amend this report. But if you remember this spring, if we only go till May 1st, we will have the Barons here again saying, this is our community, this is our hometown. We want to play on our ice. So again, you've got to think about that and what the Barons are going to bring in, that spin-off, the economic spin-off when they have those playoffs. So here we are, both ways. So if we look at these, right now we're at, without the subsidy, we're at $3,500 at a loss. Keep that ice in. So if we can, it'd be nice to see that neutral if we could. Like it shouldn't cost us money for the Barons to be in a playoff. Deputy Mayor, sorry, Councillor Fleet.
The only concern I have, and I've heard this in the past, maybe it's just, what if we would happen to, the Barons would say, fine, we're moving to a different municipality.
But again, we can't be held hostage. We've had many groups say, well, I'm going to go to another municipality if I can't find a location, whether it's the arena or a store or whatever, and we can't make our decisions based on what if they leave. Like that happens. It's the same as committees. What if someone leaves a committee? It happens. So, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. It is an emotional decision, actually, because I think we all support our minor hockey and the Barons, and we want to see them do well. But we also need to consider all the other residents of our community who want to use the facilities they pay for through their taxes and all of those things as well. So does feel like we're being held hostage, to be honest with you, and I don't really like that feeling. And I do think that we do need to push back to the PGHL and the others to be respectful of everybody. You know, we talk about being inclusive and all these things in our culture and our society, and we can't let one group dictate that the others can't have these facilities just because they might make it. And if we make this decision, you know, we have pretty much cast everyone out, as Councillor Sackle has said. They need to make their plans a year or more in advance as well. And by us deciding tonight that we're extending the ice season, we would be eliminating these other users. And I think that's a good portion of our population as well. The people who enjoy the home show, who do the hospital gala, you know, supporting the hospital is, that's likely more important, quite frankly, to our community. If you talk to the people of our community, they're likely more concerned about supporting our hospital than some of the other things, because, you know, you have 28 weeks, I think you said, of ice, Laura. That's a pretty good chunk of your year that you can have to enjoy ice and all those good things. To eliminate that 6 or 8 week window for the other users, I think is unreasonable. And like I said, I support the Barons, I support minor hockey, but and I don't blame them for this either. It's not them. I don't think it's the PJHL who's putting this pressure, and it's kind of a no-win situation for the Barons and for this council. But I do think we need to look at the bigger picture and consider the other users of our facility. And I wish they could come up with a May 1st. You know, I think that would be a compromise that I think would meet all the needs. And I think that's what we need to push for. Thank you.
Thank you for that. But I think the PJHL has said, if you don't have ice, you find ice. So our decision is, do we tell the Barons you don't have ice, or you do? So we have consequences with either. Councillor Sacco?
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, so I think we should go along with what you're saying. They voted, they extended the season. We know now what's happening. With reference to the hospital, we know they're not going to put a gala on next year. They do it every other year. So that's a good thing for us. I think we're going to have to extend the season, but we're going to do it, I would think, what Councillor Hawking said, get that letter, talk to those other municipalities, let them know we don't like it. Let them know we would prefer a May 1st deadline and move from there. We haven't answered Laura's question about money. Will we raise our ice rental fees? Yes, we will. We have to.
And following that, Laura, so when you say double the regular ice rate for all games, is that included? Did you base that for the 35 hours of Barron's time?
Yes.
Still losing money. Councillor Hawking?
So just let me get this straight. If we support Councillor Sackle's suggestion, we are basically telling the garden show, forget it next year.
No, no.
I was just, it looks like Laura was, okay, so through you, Your Worship, and Laura, you can, we're certainly not saying no.
But
They will have to look at an alternate date. That would happen between
Okay.
May 27th and June, well, May 27th to August 31st, because really and truly you can have, but as we said, July and August are typically not floor rental type.
so they could put their advertising out and say, pending junior C playoffs, we can't. You know, I think it's unfair too.
And Councillor Hawking, I agree with you, it is unfair, but at this point, I don't think you're going to change them because their dates are set. They've had that vote. Maybe we can change them for next year. But
So council, staff have put together a recommendation around the date. And that is that we that before council for your decision is that you extend ice to the 3rd week third Monday in May. Laura listened to council's feedback during February when we had 2 reports about extended ice. And I very much heard that council wanted to see a policy around extended ice. This is the start of that policy, and it'll be built into ice booking agreements accordingly if this is the direction that you support. You also have the opportunity, because I'm hearing tonight that maybe you don't like that May 20th date. You can decide that date to be whatever it is, May 1st, but then you need to be prepared that means if ice comes out May 1st, as an example, then you are saying to any team that advances in any playoff format, whether it be the Barons or minor hockey or ringette, that as of May 1st, the ice is coming out no matter what. You will need to find alternate ice arrangements. So again, staff have made a recommendation based on what we heard and what we went through last February when the Barons were here asking for extended ice. Council can modify and suggest and amend. If you're not happy with that date, you can make it whatever date you're comfortable with. And then the second part being, we need guidance on whether you wish to apply those council-approved subsidies after April 1st or not.
Councillor Hawking?
I hate to belabor this, but it's very clear what the PGHL has told their member organizations. It says here that they are to confirm the availability of ice in their home center for playoff play. And should ice not be available, teams should be prepared to play in alternative facilities. So if we say to the Barons tonight, May the 1st, then it's up to the Barons to determine where they're going to play in an alternate facility, should they extend their season past May the 1st. Am I correct on that? Sherry?
That's how I've understood what the direction is from the PGHL to their member organizations. And that's not just the Barons, that's all the organizations across Ontario. Laura's shaking her head, so in agreement.
Okay, so first of all, are we going to keep the ice in? What's the date? And are we going to have double the regular rate? Is that the 3 questions we need to decide on?
Subsidy or not, basically.
Right.
Not rate.
Right, okay. Deputy Mayor?
I I guess it's a learning as you go experience. So, to do it for 1 year, I wouldn't mind trying it for 1 year. I'm not comfortable with the 25-26 decision tonight. I would prefer a 1-year trial that allows the other function or other facility users to see what they can do alternatively as well. Perhaps they can look at a June date for a home show or whatever, and whoever else is using it, maybe they can look at alternate dates too. So I would be comfortable enough to do it for 1 year, but I'm not really wanting to commit to a 25-26.
I'd like to just guess that all council is in favor of the 1 year. Councillor Hawking?
Yeah, I can support Deputy Mayor Dickert's position for 1 year. And that allows us a time to reevaluate and get in touch with the other communities that are faced with the same dilemma we are, but only 1 year, and make this known to the Barons how we feel hostage. But yeah, and it does give Deputy Mayor Dickert made a good point. It does give that the other individuals who want the facility certainly a heads up that they could find a date in June. So he's got my vote.
Councillor Sacco, similar?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, definitely. That's what I'm saying. Do it this year, even though we don't want to do it. We'll do it for 1 year. And then we'll do exactly what you want it to do, the letter, the talking to the other municipalities. I don't want to see the Barons in here again, asking us for those extra hours like the mayor has already mentioned tonight. So we don't want to do it, but I think we have to do it, and it'll help Laura as well. And she'll have a date and she can talk to those user groups. Thank you.
And the subsidy, yes or no?
Yes.
We're going to give them the subsidy?
No.
Okay, No subsidy. Sherry, comment?
Okay, that's good. I just, well, no, I'm not saying that's good or subsidy. I should clarify. For our listening public, I wasn't agreeing with that specifically. I just wanted to, because so I'm gonna put council's attention to page 3. So that proposed direction would be altered, which is going to just so, and maybe Clerk Vicky will be able to help us out here if we need to actually amend the recommendation, because the recommendation talks about including the report. So basically then what we're saying is that bullet 3 would change to say this commitment shall be to May 2024, and that's it. It will stop at that point, okay? And then bullet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, bullet 5 would be removed. Because basically what we're saying is that the extended ice would be reviewed and reconfirmed during each council term. So we would just remove that, and pending the campaign and advocacy to the PGHL to consider changes. You know, we'll probably be back here again at this time with a similar report is what I would envision for what that may look like. So through you, Mayor Sue, Vicky, do we need to change that recommendation wording somehow, or just note these amendments within the minutes through the report?
I would change the recommendation that council approve extending the ice season as detailed in report PRC 0923 to the end of the 2023-24 ice season.
And this, do we need to choose the option? Because we have 2 options, right? A or B.
Yes, through you, your worship, you need to provide that direction through that, like the motion would indicate, or that recommendation would say that council not support the council approved subsidies being applied to any ice rental past April 1st. Or something to that effect.
Okay. Councillor Fleet?
Thank you, Your Worship. I totally agree. I'd like to see a letter sent to the PGHL regarding our concerns and our disappointment in the PGHL from the town of Hanover. I'd also like Laura to, be in contact with the other municipalities and get full support from them, because this is all PGHL directed. I think a letter should be sent to Terry Whiteside, who's the director of the Junior C, the whole league, and the pressure they're putting on municipalities. And going forward, our costs are only going to go up. So I fully support.
Yes, staff is aware. Sherry's taking notes here and we'll follow through with that. Councillor Hocking?
It's just the wordsmithing. Does the recommendation of the report need to change too? The council approved extending the ice is detailed into the end of the 25-26 ice season, and this is on the beginning on page 235 of, you know what I mean?
So the year will be changed to
Yeah, okay.
2023 to 2024.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. It's a good discussion, a long discussion, but if we don't do this now, we're going to be rushed. And as Laura said, there are people watching. I'm sure the home show wants to start on dates and everything. And I'm sure the Barons are watching too. So I think we've got a good solution here for 1 year and some things to put in place to talk with other municipalities and the PGHL. So, and whoever else, Laura, you can speak with Sherry and we'll go from there. So I'm going to call the question. All in favor of PRC 0923 with those amendments? How's that for covering it? That's carried. Very good. So thanks for that. I do want to ask, Andrew, is this your only report? Okay, because I was going to say we'll do your report, but I think we should take a break right now. Can we do 15 minutes? So 6:25. Almost said 8:25. 6:25, let's come back and we'll be ready to go again. Okay, welcome back. We'll continue on with the agenda. We're on item 10.7. This is page 241 in your package. I had to put that in there because there's 372 pages in this package. No wonder I was trying to rush the meeting when you see those numbers, right? Okay, we're on report PB 1823. The subject is the appointment of the Deputy Chief Building Official as per the Building Code Act. It's from Andrew Wilkin, our Director of Building and Planning and CBO. I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Hawking and Councillor Fleet. Andrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. PB 18-23, further to report CAO 14-22, I believe, which was the report that appointed me as the CBO. And as per section 3(2) of the Building Code Act, council shall appoint a chief building official and such inspectors as are necessary for the enforcement of the Building Code Act and regulations thereunder. Building permits can only be issued by a CBO, chief building official, or a deputy CBO in the absence of a CBO. With the restructuring of the building and planning department, the town began recruiting a building inspector / plans examiner in May of this year. After an extensive interview, reference, and testing process, Jordan Whitmore was selected as a successful applicant. Within that job description, the position was to appoint this person as a deputy CBO, as Brenda Getz has recently retired. It is recommended that Jordan Whitmore be appointed as Deputy CBO to perform the statutory duties pursuant to the Building Code Act and the Ontario Building Code, including zoning administration, plans examination, and building permit inspections. Of note, Nelson Dolly has and still currently is and will remain as well a Deputy CBO for the town of Hanover. He's been that for about 20 years. Additionally, the Building Code Act defines an officer as a property standards officer who is responsible for administering and enforcing the property standards bylaw passed under section 15(1) of the Act. Therefore, the above appointment bylaw will include Jordan Whitmore being appointed as a property standards officer as well. Jordan is qualified and registered with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing and has attained the necessary training and experience to examine and inspect building construction, as well as interpret and apply the OBC. She is currently a member of the OBOA and the Blue Water chapter of the OBOA. Jordan brings to the position several years of permit administration and construction experience to complement her role as an inspector and a plans examiner. She's been local here in the private industry and municipal government for a little over 10 years. There are no direct financial implications to the town associated with this report. The link to the strategic plan is sustainable municipal operations. And the recommendation is that report PB 1823, appointment of deputy chief building official as per the Building Code Act, be received, and that council pass bylaw number 3274-23 as per section 3(2) of the Ontario Building Code Act, SO 1992, Chapter 23, as amended, to appoint Jordan Whitmore as Deputy Chief Building Official and Property Standards Officer. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew, and welcome to Jordan. Any comments or questions? I'll call the question. All in favor of the report? That's carried. Item 10.8 is report CAO 0823. We are rescinding a bylaw, and it's from Sherry Walden, our CAO, and I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Hudson and Councillor Sackle. Sherry?
Thank you, Your Worship, and Council. I think I will probably do a Coles Notes because you've seen this a version of this report and background a number of times to date. But basically, we were contacted by the property owner at 41 Bruce Road 22 last December about the option to connect to the town water system, given that the main water transmission line was adjacent to their property. So through conversations with Brockton, we did get to an agreement that was agreeable to both Brockton, ourselves, as well as the property owner. Brockton approved that agreement by bylaw on May 23rd, and then we approved it on June 5th, with the subsequent bylaw being approved on June 19th. Once that bylaw was in place, communication occurred with our legal as well as the property owner, just in regards to the next steps and the information that they could, that they would be receiving in the very near future to move forward with this installation. So on June 28th, I received a call from the property owner that they were no longer interested in moving forward with the installation of water services. And I asked for that in writing, to which we received that on June 29th. All legal processes were stopped immediately, and an update's been provided to Brockton staff. It's my understanding they also are rescinding the bylaw in regards to the agreement. So with this development, we need to rescind bylaw 3268 in its entirety. So the report before you is that report CAO-08-23 rescind bylaw 3228-23 water services agreement for 41 Bruce Road 22 Brockton be received, and that council approve rescinding bylaw 32. Oh my goodness, Vicky. I think that should be, I think we've got a wrong, just noticing now I've got a typo in the bylaw number. So there's two different bylaw numbers in the recommendation. So we're going to need to double check that. Is there a way to do that easily right now? Sorry, through you to your worship. I've got 3268 in my discussion section. So I'm thinking my fingers were typing a little faster than I should have been.
In the motion, I have bylaw. In the motion, I have rescinding bylaw 3268-23.
Perfect. So again, it's rescind bylaw 3268 will be corrected in that first part, and then that council rescinds bylaw 3268-23 in its entirety. If there's any questions, I would be happy to answer those.
Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's a moot point, but there is financial implications on this when you take staff time to prepare and do all the work.
Agreed.
I can say it's, we do now have a template that we can work with for if this should arise again. So, all right, I'll call the question. All in favor of CAO 08-23. That's carried. Thank you. Item 11 is committees of council minutes, and we have 6 sets of minutes along with a couple of subcommittee minutes. I need a mover and seconder for those 6 sets, Councillor Sacco and Councillor Hawking. So the first one, 11.1, we're on page 245. Is the Economic, Tourism and Cultural Development Advisory Committee minutes, and following it is the Subcommittee Hanover Heritage Committee minutes and the Cultural Roundtable minutes. So I'll ask if Councillor Sacco will highlight those minutes, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the Economic, Tourism and Cultural Development Advisory Committee met on June the 21st, and their meeting was at the Lions Den at the P&H Center. But the focus of this meeting was the Town of Hanover Strategic Plan Business Focus Group, which was under the direction of Linton Consulting. They engaged members to gather community input to support the town's strategic plan. And their next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, September 20th in the Saugeen Room at the Civic Center. May I go ahead, Your Worship, and do the Heritage Subcommittee? At the May 18th meeting, Laura Kristen presented a podcast opportunity, the organizers wanting stories in order to show listeners how amazing Canadian history is. So stay tuned for more details. And if you have some stories to share, you can contact Laura Kristen with that. The P&H Center display case update, there's a greeting card and old postcard display set up for all to see. And in the fall, citizens can look forward to a Hanover hockey display. Under new business, the committee is proposing to host an artifact roadshow in connection to Culture Days this September. And thirdly, the Cultural Roundtable Subcommittee minutes. At the June 7th meeting, the committee discussed the Heritage Square enhancements that have occurred with the help of a $90,000 grant from the Tourism Relief Fund. We now have the new amphitheater cover, the pride benches, and an upgrade to our holiday light display. And the committee is planning for a joint cultural roundtable meeting with Minto and Wellington North on September the 6th, 2023. They're also preparing for Culture Days in September. Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, if there's any questions, just let me know. Councillor Hawking?
Yeah, this is just a comment. I found it very interesting that the pardon me, the Hanover Heritage Committee feels the addition of a splash pad to the park does not mesh well with the original historical intent in general of the park. So I think that would be, well, I guess my point is that should be considered when we're making our decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 11.2. This is on page 253 of your package, the Emergency Management Program Committee minutes. Chief.
Thank you, Your Worship. As noted, the committee met on June 13th. All members were present. We discussed the hazard identification and risk assessment, which was reviewed by the committee and approved, as well as the critical infrastructure list was also approved with some minor change. We again, as we do every meeting, reviewed the public education strategy, which was again approved by the committee. We talked about drone streaming as well as the command trailer conversion. And we also reviewed the dashboard, our emergency management dashboard, and how we can implement that into our training this year. We reviewed the extreme heat plan that we have and also reviewed the response program and plan that you reviewed tonight to make sure that the committee approved it. We also looked at some scribe training as well as some new notebooks for note taking during emergencies. We reviewed the plan for the training and the mock for this year to make sure that the committee was in agreement with the strategies that have been suggested. And we talked about ARES, the amateur radio emergency services, and their involvement in ensuring that our community is ready for emergencies. They're assisting us with ensuring we have radio backups. And then we adjourn the meeting at 11:20.
Thank you. I don't see any questions, so we'll move on. 11.3 is the Age Friendly Advisory Committee minutes. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. Age Friendly Advisory Committee met on Monday, June 19th. I'll just go over some of the highlights. World Elder Abuse Awareness Day was discussed. Brandon Dobson gave us a grant update regarding a grant application. Future project priority ranking results. Committee members were given the results of a ranking for present and future projects. Age Friendly Business Resource Guide. Laura Regier made updates to the text color and updating status for 2016, excuse me, 2021. Other business committee members shared the walk for Alzheimer's was a success, raised $80,000 with this event. And committee members shared the DIA has been working with Hanover Business to offer Seniors Day on Tuesdays. And that's all I got to report from Age Friendly.
Thank you. Item 11.4 is Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee minutes. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee met on Wednesday, June the 28th. Something new, a business arising from the May 24th meeting was a fundraising strategy recommended with so many of the different things that we're raising money for. It was decided that perhaps there should be some sort of strategy involved for the town. So an internal working group's been created to investigate town-wide fundraising, and committee members will include Chris Walker, Laura Kristen, and April Marshall. And the first meeting for that is in September. Other things that came up, as this is a little older, stage cover construction been completed, ribbon cutting ceremony. There's been a couple of different music in the square events, which are gaining more and more popularity as we go along. And we've already discussed the ice rental requests and also disc golf, as you know, opened on July 11th, well attended, lots of interest in it, as well as the following day when the golf pros were there, sorry, disc golf pros were there to continue showing people how to do it. There were a lot of people on that Wednesday as well. So let's hope that that continues. Canada Day was a great success. Food, music, games, the Heritage Committee was involved, flower show. And there's also new but temporary signs indicating that Hanover Park is actually the Hanover Park. So you'll see them inside the pillars. There's a little indentation. So there's Hanover Park signs in there now so that we know what it is.
That's it.
Yes, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. Item 11.5 is the Planning Advisory Committee minutes from Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. Plan Advisory Committee met Tuesday, July 11th. I'll just go over some of the highlights. Number 6, official plan amendment zoning bylaw amendment. This would be 118th Avenue, 2176058 Ontario, Inc. The site at this location, this amendment involved incorporating a site-specific policy and zoning regulation to authorize a proposed automobile service and sales use for Volkswagen dealership. The current site includes 400 square meter building and a large parking area situated to the west of the building. Grey County staff has noted that a comprehensive review would be required as part of the supporting plan. Analyzing a proposal would be covering the industrial designation parcel of commercial use. The staff also emphasized that the proposed development exclusively pertains to a new car dealership with 3 bays. This property is across from our Hanover Vet Clinic, close to our new fire hall. It was previously owned by Hanover Honda. Number 7, site plan control agreement, 661st Street. This is close to our new fire hall. Bill Clancy joined our meeting and they're proposing plan outline construction of a contractor shop, a specified a plumbing shop along with accompanying warehousing area. The proposed development to the regulations outlined a comprehensive zoning bylaw number 2912-15. Additionally, it is anticipated the project will create employment opportunity for 4 people. Going back to the Volkswagen dealership, they're looking at having 12 employees. A request for comments, Z4L JTL Limited. This is County of Bruce. The request is due to the fact that subject land, excuse me, lies within 1 kilometer radius of the town of Hanover. The object of the application is to rezone a section of property in order to allow for an outdoor storage and trailers, travel trailers, boats, and similar recreation vehicles. This piece of property is out by Lind. It's a gas company across from them, just past Heinz's Auto Body. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Andrew, I'd like to ask, can you share with us with the new rules, just to remind us when we have a public meeting and when we don't?
Sure, through your worship. Typically, a public meeting would still be provided anytime something does not conform to the comprehensive zoning bylaw and it's above anything minor in nature. So public meeting generally or always does come to council on that effect. A public hearing is still what we will receive with the Committee of Adjustment, and the Committee of Adjustment will hear those matters. There isn't technically a public hearing anymore for site plan control, as we've discussed, if we want to call it that. As you will find in a later report, I'm coming forward to council with my first information report on the site plan control agreement, which is already executed and in place and coming as an information item.
Thank you for that. I might have to ask you again next month, but that's okay. It's always a good reminder. 11.6 is the Hanover Walkerton Waste Management Committee minutes. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our meeting was on July the 4th, And we continue to explore opportunities for organic waste collection and diversion. We had a representative from Waste Management present some options that they can provide. Of note, the specialized vehicles they use have a 2-year acquisition timeframe, so it would require a lot of lead time for them to do this. Some costing estimates for organic collection and processing are as follows. Using their cart system, organics only would be $120 to $130 per household per year on a weekly collection basis. Organics and waste are about $180 per household per year on a weekly collection basis. And organics weekly and waste bi-weekly comes to about $164 per household per year. And our current cost is about $32 per house per year, keeping in mind that does not include the cost of operating the landfill site. Cost savings by diverting organics from our landfill site is estimated in the $17 to $18 per household per year. So we still have lots of work to do to come up with a solution on that. We reviewed the audited financial statements. Our treasurer, Chris, was there to present that, and there was no concerns identified. Landfill quantities shows a total receivables down about 8%, with the residential piece of it being about 3.5% lower than last year at this point in time. And that is my highlights of that report.
Thank you. There's one thing you can say, managing waste is expensive, whether you're recycling, whether it's going into the landfill or composting, it's expensive, whatever we use. So we have to find the best way to make it all work, because I don't think we'll ever get away from waste. It's here forever. So that was the last set of minutes for that motion. It was moved by Councillor Sackle, seconded by Councillor Hawking, and the motion is to receive the information and approve the recommendations contained in those minutes. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item 12 is our bylaws, and I will ask the clerk for the intent of the bylaws. We have 4 of them. Vicky?
Bylaw 3271-23 is a bylaw of the town of Hanover to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the town of Hanover at its regular meeting held on June 19th, 2023, and special meeting held July 5th, 2023. Bylaw 3272-23 is a bylaw of the corporation of the town of Hanover to amend the emergency management program and emergency response plan adopted by bylaw 3062-19 as amended. Bylaw 3273-23 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 3223-22, being a bylaw to establish and regulate a fire department in the town of Hanover. Bylaw 3274-23 is a bylaw to appoint a chief building official and deputy chief building official for the town of Hanover.
Thank you. And I need a mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Fleet. I normally ask that before the intent, but so it's been moved by Deputy Mayor Dickert, seconded by Councillor Fleet, that bylaw numbers 3271-23 through to 3274-23 be introduced, and that they be taken as read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and inserted in the bylaw book. Is there any further discussion with those bylaws before we vote? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 13 is correspondence requiring action, and we do not have any. Item 14 is reports and correspondence for information. So 14.1 on page 323 is report DCS 1223. The subject is the budget status report. It's the quarterly report. No, it's not quarterly. Semi-annual. There we go. It's from Chris Walker, our Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer. Chris?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is the more detailed report that we provide for you on written basis because numbers sometimes just get blurred. So it's easier to see words. So this one is provided to council when we have an update available for you. I have attached the balance sheet as of June 30th, also the accounts payable listings from April to June. And we currently show a deficit of 943. That just means in this current year, we have more expenses right now than we have revenue coming in. All that means is that you'll see on the balance sheet, the amount from the bank, the cash has gone down a little bit because we've used it right now to pay for these expenses. And most of that is for the capital because we have a lot of capital projects being expensed and we don't finance them until closer to the end of the year through our reserves and grants as they come in. And we've also fully paid all our payments to Smart, Landfill, and Saugeen Valley by the end of June. So the full year's amounts are already paid there. Final tax bills will be processed the first week of August 2023 with due dates of August 31st and November 30th. I've also provided you taxes receivable graph. Now, those are the things that I normally provide you on a quarterly basis. This one has a little bit more detail right now on the financial implications. So we're doing a projection based on each function within the municipality. And right now we are streaming towards being fine. Hopefully a surplus that we can send to our reserves as we have done in the past. So right now we're predicting that we aren't going to be in a deficit position. I'll just highlight a few of them. The municipal administration, our West Ontario dividend was down about $50,000 from what we had originally budgeted. And that will occur again for the next couple of years because they do major capital investments. So we'll make sure in 2024 to budget for a lower dividend. So that's where you'll see in that chart where I said we're going to be down 50,000 there, but we will make it up in other departments because of some of the capital RFPs that went out and they came under tender. The Ontario Lottery and Gaming, I still have not received the amount for the April to June. So that will determine how close we're going to be to our budget where we had increased it to 1.3. So fingers crossed. The best one is usually the third quarter, which we usually see after September, October there. That's when we'll see for sure how close we're going to be. Bigger area here under the ambulance center, we're looking at a possible interior expansion, working with our existing tenant. They need more space. So we're looking at another spot to try and expand there. For the fire, obviously, we all know that the request for proposals are underway for the construction of a new fire hall, and it should be completed by the end of July. Another one that might be in cemetery, you will remember that you just passed a new cemetery bylaw to regulate, manage, maintain, and control the town of Hanover. And that was passed in May. And the Hanover Medical Clinic, we've also had a request for an interior renovation for the Hanover Medical Associates. So we're looking at that. We have completed all the existing lower level tenants that are existing there for another further 5-year term. So everybody's in till the end of June 2028. And we'll be working with the Hanover Medical Associates for their renewal coming up in October 2023, hopefully for another 5-year agreement. Under transportation, 11th Street from 17th to 21st Avenue is underway and anticipated to be completed by early August. The joint project with the County of Grey on the 24th Avenue was awarded, as we know, to Cedarwell, and it's anticipated a mid-August start. The sidewalk machine was delivered at the end of June and has been added to our equipment fleet, and the road resurfacing is to be done by the end of August 2023, as per Ron's previous report to council. Under landfill, what we've noticed is that obviously our bank interest has exceeded the budget already. So we're predicting another 50,000 in there, but again, it's a joint landfill. So it's not coming back to the town. It goes into the joint landfill reserves. Waterworks, again, the 7th Ave Water Tower Environment Assessment continues and it's hoped to be completed by the end of this year. As for the wastewater plant environmental assessment, it continues with projected completion by the end of 2024. You may recall Ron mentioning that it should take 18 to 24 months to get these EAs completed, which is a long time. Engineering investigative work for 181 7th Street, the former high school property. We used to call it the former JDSS. Sewer rehabilitation was on the capital projects and it will be completed in conjunction with the proposed redevelopment at that site when it occurs. So it's kind of on hold until that actually moves forward. The other projects, the 5th Avenue Truck Sanitary Reline, engineering has been completed and the industrial land sanitary is anticipated to commence later in the year. The engineering has not started at this time. These were all part of the capital budget for 2023. As for the parks, as we all know, the installation of the new disc golf course officially launched on July 11th. The Trail Bridges rehabilitation has been underway based on Sherry's report that's gone to council. And the other one at the P&H Center, we have a mechanical engineer to guide the boiler replacement project that is part of the capital for 2023. And the ice resurfacer has been ordered from Resurface Corporation and should be received by the end of November 2023. And another budget, building and planning. Right now, the majority of the vacant residential lots are currently owned by one developer. Once Saugeen Cedar Heights West subdivision is registered by the end of July 2023, we will start to see an increase in possible new housing going up. The economic development, obviously, the community improvement program continues to spur development. And we have received many applications through this program for 2023, and that's being currently reviewed by the committee for the distribution of these limited funds. And you should be seeing new directional signs in the entertainment district and the first phase of secondary signs throughout Hanover occurring. And the HIP apprentice campaign is underway, and they're going to leverage Launchpad to host a Tools on the Trades Boots Camp and support the Support Ontario Youth Luncheon that's occurring. And this is just an information report, just so you know, the strategic direction, obviously municipal operations, sustainable. And like I said, we're looking at a shortfall in general government, but transportation had some major capital that's going to be under budgeted from what we had. So that'll offset that. And if we don't get any more planning and development building permits, we could be under budget on that. Because I think GeoFocus was supposed to start and I haven't seen that coming yet. So that was 100,000 that we had already budgeted in there for that. And that's it.
Thanks, Chris. That's a really good summary. Any questions or comments? All right. That was for information. So we'll move on to 14.2. This is report FI 0723. This is the quarterly activity report for the fire. And it's brought to us by the chief.
Thank you, Your Worship. As indicated, this is the April to June quarterly report for 2023. In the second quarter, we can see that we had 45 calls total, the first being rescues, second being false fire calls, and the third being other. And then year to date, we've had 87 to the end of June, first being false fire calls, second being medicals, and third being rescues. Our fire inspections for the quarter were 51 completed, 18 reports issued, and 9 still in progress. For Alarm for Life, we completed 21 home visits. We were able to enter 13 and 4 were compliant, which is 30.7% compliance, which is down slightly from year to date. The public education, we did 10 activities, estimated 524 participants and 24 hours completed. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thanks, Chief. Any comments or questions? Could you just speak to the false fire calls? Are they homes or businesses or people just being safe and calling the fire department?
Through you, Your Worship, it's a combination of systems that malfunction, perceived emergencies that aren't, and sometimes smoke alarms and residential just fail as well. So it's a combination of all of it.
Very good. And the participants, 524, that's really good. So, education. Okay, item 14.3 is the report PB 1723. This is the site plan control agreement for Hanover Realty Corp, Class Factory. It's from Andrew Wilkin, our Director of Building and Planning and CBO. Andrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. And as I stated earlier, this is the first site plan control agreement you've seen that's already been executed. This one was fairly straightforward. It was more of an interior renovation. However, it does fall in our C1 zone, so requires site plan control. I would expect on future information reports on site plan and control agreements, there'll be a little more meat to the report because there'll be a little more to talk about, but this one, not so much. So on April the 17th of this year, the owners and operators of the Class Factory Fitness contacted the town to discuss building permit requirements at 232 10th Street to turn that in from a commercial retail space, formerly the dollar store, or into a fitness center. At that point, it was determined would require site plan control. So we initiated contact with the owner of the property, who is not Class Factory, to undertake a site plan control agreement. On May the 9th, that proposed site plan control agreement did go to Planning and Advisory Committee. Discussions confirmed from the applicant that all work will be conducted within the current building. With that said, some new exterior building signage will be proposed prior to completion of the project. That'll be done under a separate permit. PAC supported and commented on the site plan control proposed and noted that there were no concerns with the proposed fitness center proceeding to an agreement. The property is currently zoned as C1 and the proposed site plan complies with all requirements of the comprehensive zoning bylaw with respect to setbacks, lot coverage, etc. Parking requirements for the fitness center are actually less restrictive than what we require for a retail space. That building being existing, it did fall under a legal non-conforming designation. However, there is less of an impact on the parking. On June the 8th, 2023, the property owner, Hanover Realty Corp., care of Lyle Shouse, entered into a site plan control agreement with the town. The executed site plan control agreement is enclosed as Appendix A in your package. Just so you're aware, the project has began work and has received a building permit since this agreement was put in place. There are no financial implications to the town associated with this report, and the link to the strategic plan is community and economic development. And the recommendation is that report PB 17-23 site plan control agreement, Hanover Realty Corp. Bracket Class Factory be received for information.
Thanks, Andrew. Are there any questions or comments either with the item or the process? Okay, very good. Item 14.4, we have removed from the agenda. So we'll go on to 14.5. This is the library board meeting minutes, and Councillor Hudson, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you, Your Worship. Public Library Board met on May the 18th. The strategic plan process is going well. They had 452 responses to their survey in a 5-week period. So that was really great. They're happy with that. So they've also gone through the first stage of the strategic plan, and the bucket lists have come through. A couple of things that are happening in the library. Oh, just to mention too, the library is also doing the disc loan out for the disc golf course. Those loan outs are only for 1 week though, because there's been such a demand for those. They're in and they're out all the time. Coming up actually next week on Wednesday, they're doing a Pirates Fact versus Fiction in the Civic Theater. $2 a person for that. So they're wanting people to pick up their tickets at the library. And then something new that we've partnered with the Agricultural and Fair Board, and library is doing a photo booth on the Saturday, August the 12th, in using and having sponsorship by Giant Tiger. So the photo booth is going to be set up right outside of the pet judging, longest ears on the cat, that sort of thing. So taking pictures of your pet or your person or whoever's at the fair that day. Unlimited photos and free of charge. Donation jar will be set up there. So that's something new that we're trying this year, and to try and start some partnerships within the community as well.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, item 14.6 is the Police Services Board meeting minutes from June the 19th. And I can share that the board is looking at future options for the police station, whether to renovate or to build new. And we're starting work on the 2024 to 2027 business plan. Just getting things in place, as in timing and process. And community involvement, the officers have participated in the Lions Club Fishing Derby. They assisted with the raising of the pride flag here at the Civic Center. Chief Knoll was the guest speaker at the Chamber Luncheon. He spoke about fraud prevention tactics for businesses and families, and really good participation in the law enforcement torch run that was involved Saugeen Shores, Hanover, West Grey, and Owen Sound. So, and if there's any questions, I can try to answer them. Seeing none. 16.9 is the Airport Commission meeting minutes. There's two sets of minutes. Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. June the 21st was our regular meeting. We meet the third Wednesday of every month at 1 p.m. I'll just go through a few things. Thanks again for attending the councilors information session. So you will on, I believe the 13th, I followed up with Brockton because there were no representatives other than the mayor. So I took it upon myself to contact each one of those individually, offer them a similar tour that you received, and I received 2 responses. We're working to the conclusion of the ONCA compliance, and that should be finished by the next meeting. We're working on an easement. Our special meeting on June the 28th was a result of April initiating a visioning exercise, and I'll talk about that later on the 28th meeting. Our fundraising has been put on hold pending the hiring of a new airport manager. We unfortunately, Philomena tendered her resignation and it was duly accepted. We've been working with Gatewood Casinos to offer incentives to pilots that fly in and giving them a free token, and it seems to be going well. We had our management letter from BDO. Everything's is fine with our books, thanks to Chris Walker. That's basically most of the report. Should I carry on with the 28th?
Yes, please
Yes,
do.
so I'm just going to highlight, and I'll read from the minutes because it was very good. So we had Luigi Presta, the manager partner from Compass, who has been working with the economic development staff from Grey County. Mr. Furness has been working with him with regard to other airports in the county. So he attended, along with Grey County and Bruce County, economic development, the municipality of Brockton, the town of Hanover, and the municipality of West Grey. So it's the first time since I've been on the commission that we had all of those players in the same room, and it was a very, very fruitful discussion. They've gone away with sort of comments from the day, and we'll receive that at a later date. And those, that's all I have to report.
Thank you. So all of those minutes and updates were for information. So we'll move on to councillor and staff updates, and we'll start with Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Be fairly brief. I did attend the Bruce Power Open House and the Nuclear Innovation Institute presentation. It is an amazing facility in our backyard and lots of opportunities to explore job creation and retention as they continue to expand. I attended the Grey County Wardens Golf Tournament and my regular committee and county council meetings.
Thank you. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. June 20th, participated in Golfer Hospice with the Hanover Legion. I want to thank the Hanover Legion Branch 130. They donated $1,500 to hospice. June 25th, attended Music in the Square. Canada Day celebration at Heritage Square. So nice to see so many families enjoying the event. I attended Hanover Raceway, Grey Bruce Singers. They were there to sing "Oh Canada." It was great. July 11th, I attended disc golf, and I've attended all my committee meetings. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Worship. I attended the grand opening of the general store at Grey Roots. I reported on the vision exercise, held interviews for a replacement for airport manager, and I'm pleased to announce that we have a successful candidate. And last week I toured with the splash pad and visited 6 different sites of the splash pad in Grey and Bruce County. A very worthwhile experience. Thanks, Lord, for setting it up. And before I turn it over to my colleague Carol, I'd just like to make a plug this weekend for the Plein Air Art Festival. You'll see approximately 50 different artists roaming around the countryside doing their thing. We have a reception at the Saugeen Municipal Airport on Friday night for all of our guests. And complemented by an assorted affair, which is the music group at the Heritage Square on Sunday afternoon. So it should be a great weekend. And don't forget to tour the Civic Center also on the 23rd, I believe that, yeah, on Sunday, because all the art will be on display and it will be judged earlier, and you can see all the prize winners. So thanks again to Laura Pedersen and Bev Morgan in the background for organizing this great event. It's our second annual. Hopefully it's bigger and better than last year, and let's all cross our fingers for good weather. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too attended a lot of the similar occasions that people have spoke on previously. I did attend on Friday, June the 23rd, the Hanover Legion had a musical group called The Crew, the Bala family, and they were incredible. If anybody ever gets a chance, please do go and check that out. Attended all my regular meetings as well as Canada Day celebrations. I was really pleased to see that the Heritage Society had their exhibits open for people to go in and see, and also to go into the clock tower and check out the workings of the clock. And also the Chamber of Commerce meeting at the airport on July the 11th, which a presentation was made by April Marshall. She did a really great job as always, and it's always interesting to see the statistics of, percentages of, seniors in the community, single families, and sort of the direction of where things are going with that. And also just to mention that the disc golf grand opening was very well put together. They had a great group of people, all age groups, which was nice to see instead of all the same age group. So right from little kids right up till like, awesome older. So that was a that was a great time. So thank you.
Very good. Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. So last week I volunteered my time helping the Saugeen artists fill their welcome bags for the artists who are participating, as Councillor Hawking mentioned, the Plein Air Painting Festival. I'll just elaborate a little bit that it is on July 23rd. It runs from 1 to 4. So they have a chance to, win. The judges will vote on their placement, but as well, you can purchase those paintings. So if you're interested in that, check it out. And of course, going to see Assorted Affair, who starts at 2 o'clock. Secondly, if you drove by the launch pad on Thursday, July 13th, you might have seen a lot of people and a lot of cars and wondered what was going on. Well, that was Tools in the Trade Boot Camp, and their focus was on motive power, and it was offered to anyone 17 years and older who were interested in the skilled trades. And all participants took home a trade-specific apprentice starter toolkit. I also attended a session with SOY, S-O-Y, an organization that supports apprentices, employers, and all stakeholders in the skilled trades. And I found that really fascinating, that kids that are going to high school can register with businesses as apprentices. They could actually start it, graduate, and then continue on after. So I thought that was wonderful. And lastly, I'm just going to point out that this Wednesday, the 19th of July, is the Tim Hortons Camp Day. And I know a lot of us are volunteering that day. So citizens, come on out. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will say I've attended similar events, but different. And I brought greetings and congratulations on behalf of council to 4 annual meetings since, well, all in June. And that was Bruce Gray Mentorship, Launchpad, the Hanover District Hospital, and Westario. And it's always interesting to see people's annual meetings because they're all a little bit different. Probably they're following their bylaws, their rules that they have to hold the annual meetings, but they're very good. I also attended the JDSS commencement because we sponsor an award, and that's very good to watch. These young, you can't even call them kids anymore, these young people, they're going to go places, they've got some really good people there. So ladies in waiting lawn bowling tournament, I brought greetings on behalf of council, and I was invited to Hanover Raceway on Saturday to help present a gift to the Prospect Series winners, and that is for 2-year-old horses that are racing. So, and at this time, I'll ask if staff have anything they want to update that might be happening or occurring before our next meeting. Laura.
Thank you, Your Worship. We received notification that the P&H Center has been selected to host a neutral site game in September for the Owen Sound Attack. So that game will take place on September the 20th. And we've been in contact with the Hanover Barons and the new Saugeen Valley Minor Hockey Association to potentially partner together to put on this event, as it will certainly be an exciting event for our community, as well as have some fundraising opportunities attached to that as well. And a planning meeting has been planned for next week, so more details will come.
Laura, what was that date again?
September 20th. It's a Wednesday.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, so planning and other meetings. These are all listed on the agenda. They're also on the website, and dates to remember and announcements. So the next committee of the whole meeting is September 5th at 4 p.m. And then the next regular council meeting is August 14th, and it's listed here in the agenda as 4 p.m. And at this point, I would like council to consider changing the start time to 3 p.m. Reasoning, because it's a real heavy agenda. We have 4 delegations that day, plus some good reports. Sherry?
Yeah, definitely. There's 4 delegations, one being the strategic plan, another one being related to a staff report that will be coming forward in regards to an opportunity around leased vehicles. So that report in itself will take some time. And then we know the splash pad report is coming forward in August as projected. So we expect it to be a heavy agenda similar to tonight, and that extra start time would be helpful.
Councillor Hawking.
That we change the regular council meeting from August the 14th from 4 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Fleet. Any further discussion? I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. I know it's early for some people, but with this kind of agenda, I have asked in previous years if council would consider having 2 meetings, either in August or in July, and I've always received an outright no, because people are on vacation, and if they want to, go away, they can't, and whatever. So it will be a longer agenda, and I'm glad we made the decision about the ice extension, because that would have, if we put that into August, it would be even longer. So thank you for that. Item 18, notice of motion. Councillor Hawking.
Yes, I'm going to act on the motion 2023-07-066 and the police police board report that you heard today. And the motion reads that the board requests the Hanover Town Council establish terms of reference for a committee to investigate establishing a new facility for the Hanover Police Services commencing in the fall of 2023. I will be bringing a motion on that issue at the August meeting.
Very good. Thank you. Item 19, closed meeting. We do have a closed meeting this evening. And let me read this. That the Council of the Town of Hanover meet in closed session in order to address matters pertaining to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality. I need a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Sackle and Deputy Mayor, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll just take a couple of minutes to Great. So we are back in open session and I declare that Hanover Council went into closed session to only discuss matters pertaining to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality. And we have one final motion to make, and that is to adjourn the open meeting at 7:49. Moved by Councillor Fleet, seconded by Councillor Sackel, all in favor. That's carried. Thank you very much. Good meeting, long but good.